where I critiqued not sitting government, but a system in place where the police council is dominated by the party in power and the government in power. And for that matter, we could not have an independent police operating. Because definitely, they're in your hands and you could move them. You could move the IGP anywhere, anytime. And the commissioners could be moved anyhow. The president at any point in time could instruct where a particular commissioner should be, because it is part of the constitution. And therefore I critique that system. I think from that point, looking at the people at the forum, or at the workshop, and the fact that defense intelligence and other people, the CID, the police corpus and other people were there, once you begin to talk about this kind of things in a tough way, and especially in uniform, as an assistant commissioner, you are on national security radar, and they'll be watching you. And even after my presentation, a lot of things, even from their own side, call me to say, look, be careful, they're looking out for you. The least thing you do, they'll take you on. And so I wasn't surprised.
I see.
And earlier on, I had said that a very senior member of government had threatened me on a platform that I shared with him for expressing my opinion on what constitutes civil uprising. We were all discussing. After a while, he came back to say he's off the line or he's off the mark. He must be brought to order. So all these things played on my mind, and I knew where it was coming from. I have a whole book that will be launching very soon, and I must be frank with you, and I'm working on it. I'm finalizing it. It's been edited at various places already. I've talked about my deal at the BNI. I've talked about some of the inhumane treatment over there. I've talked about the fact that they do not allow lawyers there, and some of the things that some of my colleagues told me about them, because remember during the second arrest, they put all of us together in one custody. And therefore, we're able to interact and share ideas as to what happened to each of us, which I've put on paper. And
tell me a little bit about that.
I want to, for instance, say that in some cases, some of them were beaten.
Well, that's ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo. He, together with two others who were standing trial for their alleged involvement in a coup plot. This case has been running for about 3 years now. They were acquitted and discharged, essentially declared innocent of all these accusations against them. He's been telling his story. We'll play bits of it in that yet to be aired interview, exclusive with Kemini Amano on Hot Issues tomorrow. But there's some chilling detail that he gives to us here on The Key Point. And we're going to get into all the issues this morning with regards to ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo and the two others. Also bearing in mind the fact that 6 persons, including 3 soldiers, were sentenced to death by hanging by the Accra High Court in this same case for allegedly plotting to overthrow the government. We'll have this discussion here on The Key Point. The most interesting aspect of this is that lawyer Martin Kpebu is one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country, was the lawyer for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo. Martin Kpebu is going to be joining us, as always, to talk about this matter and how things played out in court later on Key Point. This week, organized labor joined in the consistent calls for government to back down on any idea of imposing 15% VAT on electricity for consumers beyond the lifeline bracket. There's a letter that's been dated January 1. The Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, instructed the ECG and the Northern Electricity Development Company to also begin developing modalities to implement the VAT with the goal of generating revenue. Well, Labour says if government goes ahead with this, they should be prepared for strike action beginning February 1. Yes, the TUC, together with other labor unions, addressed the press this week. We will get into that this morning here on The Key Point. The new Patriotic Party, in 102 constituencies, they will be going to elect their parliamentary candidates to represent the party. These are constituencies that have sitting members of parliament. We'll tell you why there are 102. There are some of them that there are some court cases that has led to these elections being postponed or either being put on hold. We would have a conversation on that this morning. We have our correspondents across the country dotted at every point here on your election command center as we have a conversation as well. As we started last week, this week the special prosecutor addressed the press, gave some further and better particulars to the conversation that we had last week about Cecilia Dapaah. Now we know. Essentially, the special prosecutor is washing his hands off the Cecilia Dapaah case. He said that he's passing it on to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. The question is, what exactly is the crime that the special prosecutor established that led to his conclusion that the money we are talking about that he seized from Cecilia Dapaah and all the saga of Cecilia Dapaah is as a result of money laundering? There are some lawyers who are raising fundamental concerns about this conclusion by the special prosecutor, reason why he's handing over this case to the Economic and Organized Crime Office. Some have even questioned whether EOCO really would be able to exhibit that kind of commitment and transparency as we saw with the special prosecutor in getting into this particular case. Reason being that even if EOCO establishes that it is indeed a case of money laundering, it would have to take the Attorney General to prosecute this case. Does the AG have the political will to do this, especially looking at the nature of this case and how it's traveled with Cecilia Dapaah and what the president said at the onset of this entire investigation? We would have a conversation this morning in the interest of you, the Ghanaian people, and for the advancement of this democracy that we're practicing. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for joining us here on The Key Point. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. My name is Alfred Okansi. My guests joining me right after this, Professor Rasford Jampo, Martin Pebu, Kojo Poku, Alhaji Nusa Fuseni, and then also we'll be joined by Professor Etia Apieje, who is a professor of law at the University of Ghana School of Law. After this quick break, stay with us. This is Key Point. Welcome.
The integrity of the judicial process of Ghana. It shows that the judicial process in Ghana actually works. Indeed, if you look at the judges and their examination of the evidence, it was such a meticulous study of all the evidence that has been put together by the prosecution. Under in which the trial has been conducted, we must also pay compliment to the Ghana Armed Forces and Military Command, especially the Defense Intelligence, who picked up the right signals and cleverly monitored them and indeed gathered the evidence. Otherwise, I'm sure Ghana perhaps would have been in disarray by now.
Well, so that's the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, after the judges delivered their verdict on this alleged coup plot case some 2 days ago. Now, after that, the lawyer for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo, who is our guest this morning, also spoke to the media to have his take on the outcome of this almost, a little over 3-year trial of this particular case. Take a look.
That's all that he said. So he said, look, if you are going to demonstrate on such matters, pass through the legal channels. That's what I said. And yet the state wove a very frivolous case, frivolous to the highest degree around his neck. And today you see the court has exonerated him. We'll sue the state for compensation. But this case has always been frivolous against him from day one.
And the man who, together with 2 others, were acquitted and discharged in their alleged involvement in this coup plotting trial, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo, also spoke to the media after he, together with the 2 others, were acquitted and discharged of all the allegations and the charges against them over the period. He has a song to sing.
From the beginning, I knew that is how it's going to end today. I didn't know when it was going to end, but I knew how it was going to end. It's like watching a movie, a replay with somebody. You know the end, but the person doesn't know. So you people didn't know the end. I knew the end. So you're confident? I was too confident.
I was praying for God to answer my prayer and take me out of this issue for part of 5 years. And God has done it. God has done it. Now I know that I'm serving a living God. I'll continue to pray. I will pray, commit my entire soul to Almighty Lord.
Been to areas that have witnessed destabilization, whatever. I was one of the officers in the Ghana Armed Forces now. I think we are only about 2 or 3. That went to Ekumon Gambat 1. Right? From there, the genocide, Rwanda. I was there. Lebanon, I was there several times. Sudan, I was all crisis. So why should I come and then support whoever may or want to do something like that? So because of that, I'm a professional. Having worked for Armed Forces over 30 years now. This is frivolous, whatever it is. But well, we thank God.
Well, rightly so. And all the 3 persons who were acquitted and discharged were the ones you just heard. In fact, also watch them right now. ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo and the 2 others. Well, just to bear in mind as well, some 6 other accused persons were also convicted to death by hanging. We'll also have a brief conversation on that. But joining me in studio this morning is a former Member of Parliament for the Tamale Central constituency. He's been a Minister of the Republic of Ghana in a number of portfolios, roads and highways, lands and natural resources, many others. And he is, for the conversation this morning, a private legal practitioner in good standing. Alhaji Nusaf Husseini. Alhaj, salaam alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum ma qulta kif halak.
And thank you very much for joining us this morning. Also, joining us is the man who's been celebrated this week for adding another victory to the many medals on his chest as one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, is lawyer for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo, and then also he's a leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups. Martin Pebo, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Vacancy. Good.
Now you can't contest what I say about
you know, I'll contest it forever. You know, in our profession, we cherish seniority. So for as long as there are thousands of seniors ahead, I just want to, know my place in the line.
In this, your profession, you deal with evidence, isn't it? Beyond reasonable doubt. Continuously, you have proven beyond reasonable doubt that you are indeed one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country.
Hey, Mr. Kasi, we'll leave it at that.
Kojo Poku, is a finance and energy analyst, and then also he's a member of the New Patriotic Party. He nursed the idea of leading the party as its flag bearer during the flag bearer elections last year, but the delegates did not smile on him. But he's with us this morning. Jopoko, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. A few smiled on me.
A few smiled, yes. Yes.
And good morning to the few who smiled on me.
Indeed, indeed. Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Also, Professor Ranford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, and also a governance expert. Professor Ranford Jampo, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Also, we'll be joined by Professor Appiah Echia, who is a professor of law at the School of Law of the University of Ghana, as we go on this morning here on The Key Point. But for the uninitiated, this is the basis of this case that we're talking about. Take a look. It all started with the summary of the coup plotters case. There are some 6 persons who were found guilty, 3 acquitted, by a 3-member panel sitting as an additional high court judges. We're talking about Justice Ifya Sewa Sariboche, who was the president of the panel, Justice Hafisata Amale Boba, and Justice Stephen Opong. And the state, during the period of this trial, presented 13 witnesses, including 7 soldiers, to prove the case of these allegations against these persons with respect to their involvement in the alleged coup plotting case. Now, take a look at this as well. They also, in the process of the trial, made these allegations of conspiracy, the charges against these persons, conspiracy to commit high treason and high treason. And the possible punishment was a death sentence, as we have seen slapped on these 6, as death by hanging. Other charges, abatement of high treason, possible punishment, life imprisonment. And these were the accused persons. There were 10 of them. 1 person unfortunately died. So there were 9 persons who stood trial this week. ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, senior police officer, was acquitted and discharged. Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli, a senior military officer who was also acquitted and discharged. And then we have Donya Kafui, a local weapons manufacturer, Bright Alan, Deborah Ofosu, and then also Lance Corporal Sylvester Akapewu, Lance Corporal Seidu Abubakar, and WO2 Esther Sang Dekuwini, and also Johannes Zipi, all in there. One other accused person was said to have masterminded this alleged coup plot. Dr. Frederick Yao McPalm died last year during the course of the trial. And as we do know, these are the trial judges, as I earlier mentioned. That is just would be in the right step to start with lawyer Martin Pebo on this as a lawyer for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, who was acquitted and discharged. Congratulations is in order, lawyer Martin Pebo, to you and your client.
As I can say, thank you. It's not only me. In actual fact, my genius in the firm, Komivi Jochi, Komi did most of the work for me. Which I was stressful. It was stressful. Because it was 10 accused persons, the trial itself, that's the one you and I were not there. Those days, Baumia could talk freely. That one took 3 hours a day, Monday to Wednesday. So at a point, Charlie, I couldn't cope. So thankfully, that's why as lawyers, you work with others. So in the firm, so most of it is coming who stood behind me. Otherwise, Charlie, I wouldn't have survived it. Then there's Hamdia Mohammed, then Marcelinus Bia, etc. Right? So it's thanks to my legal team as well. And it's good we fought this fight because you see, from day one, it was just a per chance meeting. I was for a certain police officer who was also going through some troubles, and then I was just helping him. So we were discussing his case when Agojo came passing by. Then the officer, a hunter, he's called a hunter, very popular on social media. Then I said, Doc, oh, come and meet Martin Kwebu, blah, blah, blah. And that was it.
That was it.
And then when he got in trouble, he called me. And it's good I stood him because this case was so frivolous. And Godfrey Dami knows it. And he knows why I'm saying so.
Why
he himself
do you say
knows,
so?
He knows it. He knows it. He knows it. That he was just trying to do a Machiavellian thing. You know, when something is small, you try and blow it out of proportion to create a state of insecurity and panic to make the case look big. Godfrey Dami knows it.
Why do you say that this issue
He can't
was
look
small?
me in the face. Godfrey Dami can't look me in the face and tell me that he believed that there was a case against Agojo. There never was, and he knows it. When I say this, Godfrey Dami understands what I'm talking about. We have to stop. We can't do this. You can't abuse state power like this. It's ridiculous. The state power is not for, this kind of Machiavellian thing, create a state of insecurity. People are after Akufo-Addo. You see, you try to protect. You see now, because of his misgovernance, nobody even cares. Nobody cares. A man who has been misgoverning, then there is an alleged coup plot. Then you go and find, a police officer, the senior one at that, a man who was leading the transformation office and very popular. So you see that he gave the case some stature. And then Colonel Gamele, you heard Gamele having been to all the war fronts. So when you add these two profiles, then it makes the case very big. Oh, people are after Akufo-Addo. Who wants to do anything to Akufo-Addo? Akufo-Addo, who has been misgoverning like this, has brought us a lot of headache like this. You see that thing? So that was it. And when they went into court, let's repeat. So please, let's make this point. This case vindicates the right of public officers to talk about the Arab Spring in Ghana.
Does it go to that extent?
Yes, that is what the case is about. When it comes to Agojo, so I'm only talking about Agojo. I'm not a lawyer for the other persons. Agojo's case was that he had said conditions in Ghana are ripe for the Arab Spring. So can say that is the case. That
was the basis for the allegations.
And they wanted to gag him and thereby gag all other public officers so that people don't talk about Akufo-Addo's corrupt administration. The administration that Captain Smart says is stealing money, officers stealing money and stashing abroad. That's all that they wanted to do. So Agojo wrote on social media that, when I say social media, it's a private platform that Dr. McPam created, Take Action Ghana. It's an NGO. He sought to do charity and also mobilize citizens to become active instead of spectators. So the context was that they were discussing the economic, the misgovernance in Ghana, right? And Agojo said it that, as for Ghana, the conditions are ripe for an Arab Spring, right? And then fast forward, this Take Action Ghana planned to go on a medical outreach. And Agojo contributed 2,000 Ghana for medical outreach. Remember, ultimately, is to make the citizens active, to hold governments accountable like we are doing here. Accountability is not only in a court of law. This is also a platform for accountability, public debates, because democracy thrives on public opinion. So sometimes when the people say, this is just public opinion, just the court of public opinion, it's a critical part of democracy. Can you imagine how a democracy would be like if there was no freedom to discuss like this, right? So Agojo said, conditions right for Arab Spring. So after donating his 2,000, fast forward, the next phase of it was that the group intended to go on a demonstration.
So let me understand this. The money that ACP Agojo gave, the 2,000 Ghana cedis, what was it meant for?
Medical outreach in Agbogloshi. Medical outreach. So the state's case was that 2,000 was contribution towards the coup d'etat. And you know, that 2,000, when we went to BNI, that time, and now
during the case of the trial?
No, the beginning of the case. That was in 2019.
Okay.
When we went, when BNI invited him, and then we went, and he had to, they arrested him, and he had to write his statement. He volunteered that. First, there was an interrogation before the writing of the statement. He volunteered that information. That listen, just to show that he was being honest. He said, "Look, I even donated 2,000. You think if he was guilty, if he was donating towards a coup, why would he be hanging himself?" He said, "These people, they were doing medical outreaches. They had already done some, and they were going to do more. They were going on a medical outreach to Agbogloshi. So he donated 2,000. Then fast forward, the next part. This is the third. So let's look. So far, we've talked about what was the case against Agojo. 1, that conditions in Ghana are ripe for an Arab Spring. 2, he donated 2,000 for the medical outrage. 3, now having dealt with the medical outrage, the third one was the demonstration. Yes, the group was going to embark on a demonstration. And then he said, hey, listen, if you want to go on a demonstration, go through due process. By the Public Order Act, you have to give the police 5 days notice, the route, etc. You also have to have a speech where you talk about the Akufo-Addo's economic, his bad governance, totally, the corruption, the family and friends government he's running, now making his family rich. We borrow, and then Furiate's data bank makes money, so Akufo-Addo's family is well taken care of. I mean, can you imagine this Fourth Republic? Have you ever seen any president bring his brother to be finance minister? Ghana borrows, and then the president's family makes their cut. Ghana borrows, then the president's family makes their cut, right? So he said no. So you have to have a speech, this. So he forwarded a speech to them. Attorney General went to court and said Agojo sat down and drafted that speech. It unraveled. They didn't have evidence, speculation. So you say, so that is it. That was the case against Agojo. Suspicions. You hear Justice Afisata Amaliboba say that a multitude of suspicions don't make evidence. Oh, and there was this critical evidence.
During the delivery of the judgment?
Yes. That side was delivered by Afisata Amaliboba.
So we have the full complement of the judgment. We have a copy of it.
Good.
It was over 3 hours that the judgment was delivered, isn't it? In court, over 3 hours.
Yes.
So we have a full complement, in fact, 96-page full document that we have as well. So yes, that's just to make the point.
So she says, in respect of all this, that look, a multitude of suspicions don't make evidence. You just put wishy-washy suspicion. As I said, this a page. The Attorney General was just taking a page from this Machiavelli, all right? Those books, The Prince. It's a way of just creating a big, a storm out of a teacup. Yeah, make it very big. Add ACP Agojo, add Colonel Gamele. Then it will look like a serious coup. That type of thing. You see, it all unraveled. And then this Arab Spring. So as I mentioned, the Arab Spring was explained. Justice Afisata
was explained in court.
Yes. It's uprising. People, when you do Kumipreku, etc., or even the demonstrations with it. So people demonstrate. Then when the numbers increase, turns into a mass uprising. Citizens are entitled to demonstrate. Why? Does Ghana belong to Akufo-Addo and his
administration? So what did the court specifically say about that statement of the Arab Spring? The judges?
Yes. So okay, good. What the point they sought to make, that's the prosecution's case, then you see the response, was that, you see, when Agojo said there will be the conditions are ripe for an Arab Spring, and then he said, blah, blah, this had to go about the demonstration. Then he said there will be a big bang. Big bang. So big bang meaning that, yes, when you go on a demonstration, try and capture the attention of the media so that there will be so much discussion of it. Then I said the big bang, maybe they were thinking about the boom, the Rollins boom speech or something. It's crazy. Big bang. So their main case was that the big bang meant that's a coup d'etat. How can you do such a thing? Coup d'etat. Yes. So that was it. So he having said there will be an Arab Spring, go on a demonstration. Here is a draft speech I've seen somewhere. You can look at it and modify it. And then there will be a big bang on the demonstration. When you read this speech, it will capture the attention of the media, and so that will catapult the organization in seeking to hold the government accountable. And so that is the big bang, and that's the case that the state rode on and failed miserably. Godfrey Dami always knew that there was no case. It was just a charade, just to prop up the case, make it look like police officers and the military, like the coup against Kwame Nkrumah. You see that type of thing. Once you put in a police officer and you put in army officers, then that's like the military cum police coup d'etat in 1966. That's how Kwame Nkrumah, the coup against Kwame Nkrumah was styled. Military cum police intervention or coup d'etat. Yeah, it was the two institutions, they came together. So I'm sure with older people, once you hear military in it, you hear police in it. Yes. It's like a Kwame Nkrumah coup. You see that thing? But you see how God has unraveled the case, and it's such a shame. We are very, very grateful to Justices Efiasewa Sariboche, Afisata Malibuba, and Stephen Opon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but there were 6 others who were found guilty, right?
Yes.
In this particular conspiracy to commit high treason and committing high treason. Dr. McPalm, now deceased, Donya Kafui, also known as Ezo, Bright Alan Deborah Fosu, Johan Zipi, Warrant Officer Class 2 Esther Sang, Dekwene, and Corporal Seidu Abubakar. These persons were found guilty of this particular high treason and committing high treason. So it is not a case you would say that was frivolous in its entirety. Maybe you would talk about that against Dr. Benjamin Agozo. But to the extent that these 6 persons were found guilty, would you say that it was a case of much ado about nothing? Martin Kwem?
Mr. Kansi, you remember when this case came up, the media christened it what? The kitchen knife coup, right? Kitchen knife coup. So I didn't say it too. The media that said it. Kitchen knife coup. Yes. So let's just remember that. So, you know, and what the voice of the people is what? The voice of God. So once the people saw it like that, they looked at their evidence and their verdict is that this is a kitchen knife coup because there were utensils and all those things. You saw those pictures, right? That were said to be the weapons that they were going to use. All I say is that, so for now, I'm referring to the media and what you went in there and saw and how the discussions went. When it comes to what happened in court in respect of the 6 who were convicted, you know, to the extent that I represented 810, I beg, let me stay away from talking about the other accused persons. They are going on an appeal.
Yes.
They have a right to appeal. Let them exhaust the, the appeal processes. Then maybe I can discuss that. But for now, let me not say anything that will prejudice their case. But, you know, yeah.
Well, bring in Lajinu Safuseni, also a lawyer. And this is a case I know you also followed quite closely and how things have played out. At least there are 3 others who were acquitted and discharged of their alleged involvement in this coup plot, alleged coup plot. Well, there are 6 who have been sentenced to death by hanging. The lawyer for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, whose lawyer Martin Pebbles detailed the case that he went to court with. In fact, the defense he went to court with made his case, and the judges heard him, looked at the evidence, and ruled, acquitted and discharged his client for that matter. Having followed this case for over the last over 3 years, and the verdict that has been given, what's your take on it?
Well, I think it's proper to say from the onset that the congratulations is due to Martin Pebu for standing up and doing a good job in respect of Agbojo. Is it your COP?
ACP.
ACP Agbojo. And also to say that, well, those who have been acquitted probably should say that they have been very lucky. Now, the case itself has not attracted any international attention.
True.
Coup d'etats are usurpations or attempts at destabilizing the country. And so, in most cases where they occur, the international community is interested in happenings and developments in the countries that they occur, because they destabilize almost everything, including foreign investors who are in the country for the purposes of conducting business. This case, notoriously, did not attract any such comments. Means that there is a prevailing perception that this was a very weak case of an attempt to destabilize the Constitution. I have also looked at the judgment of the court, and particularly the pronouncements of Ifiasewa. And it appears to me that she gave a very, if you want, I don't know which word to use. I mean, lame explanation of the provisions of Article 3 of the Constitution that talks about the need to protect the Constitution and creates the offense of high treason. Because she says it doesn't matter the potency of the instruments used if the action is to destabilize. But to honest with you, can you separate the potency of equipment used in the coup from the actions taken? Because you are talking about an activity to stand against the establishment, the military, and we know, and Professor is here, political science lectures, the cohesive power of the state. We know it's vested, and
can you use a broom to challenge the coercive power
of a state?
Yes,
or a cutlass.
I don't know that place, but you know in law, even if you take powder and you think it is cocaine, you put it in a bag, they will catch you. Chef Puri.
I don't know.
Or you take a gun and aim at somebody, then you pull the trigger, then it turns out that there is no bullet. Sorry, you will still be found.
I agree. But you need, for such a high treason case, you need concrete evidence pointing conclusively to actions that were intended to destabilize the government.
Because you could be killed.
The Constitution says that the ultimate is death. A sentence to death. There's no.
So if you are taking human
the discretion of the judge is taken away. Now, and what you have said clearly clicks with me in terms of the governance style of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. His preferred instrument of governance is instilling fear in the people of this country. And he does that either directly or covertly. So if you are opposed to him, or if he believes that the people do not appreciate his leadership so well, he contrives some fear. He might get people to level accusations against you, arrest, detain you for some time, and release you. Or, he gets the state apparatus to begin to hound you, to make sure that he puts fear in you. I believe that was one such tactic that was used in the case of the coup plot. Because it doesn't sit well. In my political science class, it doesn't sit well with what we know about coup d'etats.
What do you know about coup d'etats that this particular case did not
coup
sit
d'etats
well
are not planned on the WhatsApp platform. Professor Saka, who was a lecturer at the political science department, and also, once upon a time, the foreign minister of this country said in one of his lectures that I was sitting in as a student, that you need great luck to succeed in a coup d'etat. You need great luck because the pervasive influence of the state around you and the fact that the state mechanism can be used. And he was talking in relation to Rawlings, how Rawlings was able to succeed on 2 occasions. He says, you need, and that Rawlings was simply very lucky. Taking it from there, I think that for a state to come to a conclusion that people are interested in destabilizing the state, usurping the Constitution, disturbing the constitutional order, I don't think you need cutlasses. I don't think so. This is my view. I don't think you need cutlasses. I don't think you need locally manufactured pistols. I don't think you need that. And I don't also think that you need people who are virtually unemployed, a low rank, very low rank officers.
Because you're a lawyer, and maybe your limitation in also appreciating the modus operandi of the security and how they look at this particular case, maybe in your view, and that's why I limit this to your view, that you don't see that these kinds of weapons can be used to do anything. How about if it is just the beginning of something? And I'm just flipping the coin around so you also understand.
If it is, what is the beginning of what? An uprising in the, like was said by Agoo? Or what? I still cannot wrap my head around what activities the people were engaged in that convinced the state that they were preparing to destabilize the government. And that's why Ghanaians have actually not given it much traction. Because we don't simply believe. And you see, when you read the Constitution, and particularly the Constitution that creates the provision that creates the offense of high crime, you will come to one simple conclusion, that Ghanaians in that Constitution have expressed a zero tolerance for military insurrections. And that Ghanaians are even encouraged through the establishment of citizen vigilantism to fight coup plotters. So it is not as in the old, where military officers, and like the example given by lawyer Martin Pebu in the First Republic, of military police officers to come together to stage a coup. I mean, and I can tell you without any fear of doubt that I think that we have all come to accept that living under a bad governance regime like that of Nana Akufo-Addo is way better than living under a military regime.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, no, you can't say that.
No, we have come to accept, because look, we do,
You can't say that.
no, let me. I can say that.
Alliance of Seni, what exactly do you mean?
I mean, if you live under the bad governance regime of Nana Akufo-Addo,
democratic bad.
No.
Whether bad or not bad is democratic.
Please, I think I'm expressing my opinion.
Yes.
But
So please let me express my opinion. Let me express. When it comes to you can rebut in any way you want. I'm saying that living under the bad governance regime of Nana Akufo-Addo, Nana Akufo-Addo could only have come to power in pursuant of the constitutional provisions. So
that's what brought him to power through an election.
Yes, but the regime is bad. It's bad. And what I'm saying that Ghanaians have come to accept that they prefer living under such a regime than a military regime.
So in effect,
it means that we will not countenance any usurpation of power that will take away our right to determine the leadership of this country.
So you say you're not countenance any coup?
We will not countenance any coup. We have no appetite for a coup. We have no appetite in this country.
Hey, are you sure?
No, I'm telling you. Well, maybe you have your sources. I am sure that Ghanaians have no appetite for a military coup. No. And there is no way you can say that a military coup is better than a civilian regime, because of the power, our power to determine who leads the country. Even if that civilian regime is bad, if that civilian regime is mismanaging, that power to determine who will, I don't think we are prepared to sacrifice that. Okay. So yes, and that was my position right from day one when the people were arrested. The accused persons
But you see,
were arrested.
you've indicated that you looked at the judgment, because it's the 96-page full judgment as we have it. And to the extent that the judges who looked into this case had reason to want to convict some 6 out of these 9 people with death by hanging, does it also not bring another side of the conversation, that there was something worth looking into in this case?
The judges,
and bear in mind that these persons are going to appeal
this ruling. The judges make their rulings based on the preponderance of evidence, and in this case, evidence beyond reasonable doubt. The judges evaluate the evidence. but the judges can make mistakes, and they do make mistakes. That is why there is an appeal process. Appeal process simply means that a judge can make a mistake, and so you appeal against the decision of a judge. Those who have been convicted are appealing against the decision of the High Court, constituted by 3 judges, to re-examine the decisions and evaluate the evidence that was adduced at the High Court, which evidence was relied upon to convict them. Now, even if the Court of Appeals agrees with the High Court, the convicted persons still have an opportunity to escalate their appeal to the Supreme Court. And so, to say that the judges evaluated the evidence and convicted 6 people has established the guilt of the 6 persons who were convicted, I would say that presently you might say so, but that the decision is not. It's been appealed against, and so we have to wait to see how the appeal process runs, and we must wait till all the opportunities given to the parties are exhausted. Then we can say probably the evidence was quite conclusive and convincing against the 6 persons. Right. But I still feel that it's an instrument of rule that the Nana Akufo-Addo government has employed right from day one against persons who are perceived to be opposed to his government or style of government. And it's an instrument of fear, and it's a cheap instrument. I mean, instruments of fear are cheap instruments. Just instill fear in the people, and then you are able to govern.
Well, you at least we're speaking to the current state of affairs with this particular case while awaiting the appeal by these 6 persons who have been convicted to death by hanging. We spoke to a lawyer Adawudu, Kojoga Adawudu, who is also lawyer for 3 of the 6 accused persons who have been convicted to death by hanging. He indicates that these 6 have been they are being kept at the still in detention.
Yes, they are.
They're still being kept in detention, awaiting that appeal process to start. So obviously, it is not as though this sentencing of death by hanging is one that is even going to take effect, because the last time this punishment was administered was sometime in 1993, and we do know last year, after Parliament passed that death penalty, abolition of the death penalty, the president assented to that particular bill.
Yeah. So it's law.
It is law now.
Act 1101. That's a Criminal Offences Amendment Act 1101. So murder, piracy, smuggling of gold, diamond, etc. The sentence is no longer death. Yes.
It is life imprisonment.
Yes. Yes. So now we are left with the Armed Forces Amendment Act, and then now the Constitution, the one that was used to convict these accused persons, they must also go. But, you know, Akufo-Addo has been tardy on it. You remember this thing, 2019, I went with Amnesty, went and made this presentation to him. He nodded in approval that yes, he would do it. He never did. Our only lack was that Susu got elected as a member of parliament. Then he heard about it. He came to Amnesty. I mean, we had a conference in Cape Coast. He came and then he said, Martin, you sure? He looked at it and he said, okay, I can do a private member's bill. That's how Susu saved us. Akufo-Addo is always interested in grandstanding. No work. Because when there are tapes. We went to the presidency in 2019. I did that presentation.
You went to the presidency?
Yeah, with Amnesty International. So I told you, Mr. President, listen, these ones, what we can do. I sitting here, I know that for Article 3, Clause 3, to amend it, you need a referendum. You know, I always talk about people hungry people. I meet the boys, there's hunger, people can't pay rent, etc. So I'm the last person to say we should take money to go and do a referendum on death penalty. No. So I said, look, Mr. President, practical common sense. Let's look at the Act 29. All the offenses that have carry the death penalty. Let's amend Act 29. Then at least we all know that we would have done majority of the job. Then we'll be left with the Constitution, Article 3, Clause 3. And he agreed. Ambrose Derry, Minister for Interior, was there. He said, yes. Gloria Kufu, Attorney General at the time. Yes. Then 2020, Amnesty International made a few follow-ups today, tomorrow, Kukwasa.
So now that it's been passed into law, so it's now
it's law.
It's law.
It's law. It has a number.
Despite that debate about whether or not
it doesn't include this.
Yes, because treason is in the constitution.
It doesn't include
Yes,
this.
but
Yes.
let me bring you at this point.
Okay.
Yes, on
You know,
this law.
there's a discussion on a very good judicial process and people conspiring to do something, and we discussing it has tended to be like an Anado bashing. You know, when Martin was going at it, he was bashing Anado. My brother was bashing Anado. It's got nothing to do with Anado.
Oh,
My brother,
it's all
it's
about-
got
okay,
nothing.
hold on,
Look,
hold on.
I personally don't think that the penalty, death penalty, should be taken out completely. It should still be there. I 100% believe in a death penalty. I don't care what Amnesty International says. In America, where they come from, it's there. People are being killed by being injected, and people are being executed when they are found guilty by court. Competent jurisdiction finds them guilty. People are being executed in America. We should have a death penalty in our statutes. I believe that.
Do you feel we can't execute?
Well, I don't care what they feel, but we should have it. That's my personal opinion as Kojupoku. But let me please go on and congratulate my brother Martin for the good work he did. But he should also appreciate that we should also congratulate the AG, Godfred Dami, for doing a beautiful job for Ghana. Why do I say that? Look, it cannot be that it's a storm in a teacup. How is that? 10 people goes to court, 1 die, 6 convicted, 3 acquitted. It means you did a good job. It means that there was something substantial for the court to look at. The only way that Ghanaians have decided, and I'm glad my brother, Honorable, clarified clarified the situation, that Ghanaians believe that no matter how bad a civilian democratic government is, we'd rather be in that than a civilian rule.
But that's exactly what I said.
Yes, and I'm happy you. That's what I'm saying. That I'm happy you clarified. No, when you mentioned it, it came
That's why
across
I asked
exactly.
specific
So
questions.
I'm glad you clarified
yes.
it, and you.
No, that's exactly what I said.
Okay, so
That you heard
we
it
are
differently.
yes. No, it came across as but I'm happy you clarified it, and we are both on the same page, because we lived through as a kid. I lived through 79. I lived through 81. So nobody wants to go through this thing again. Look, one of the things that Ghanaians should appreciate was that when somebody say that today, if you want to plan a coup, it's not WhatsApp you do. Please, do you know the things that are on WhatsApp? When somebody calls you normal calls, Master, let me call you on WhatsApp, I have something to tell you. People think that WhatsApp is the most secure form of communication, so they will now rather go on WhatsApp to say certain things and discuss certain things because they think that is the most secure place to discuss. Well, it doesn't matter, but you see, in 79, the only way they could meet was to gather, because there was no communication at that time. There was no mobile phone. In 81, the only place they could gather was to meet, because there was no mobile phone. Today, there is a story of a man who went to war and he lost because he didn't have a lot of chariots and spears, and he lost the war. So he went back home and then built so many spears and chariots, thinking that the next time he goes and faces this same opponent, he will now have an upper hand, not knowing that the other guy has found gunpowder. So he knew that your chariots and spears were now useless against the man's gunpowder. What I am trying to say is that the world has moved on. What are we looking at when we talk about treason? Anything that can overthrow a government. Now, when we say conspiracy, your man is lucky you don't have RICO law in Ghana. In America, he would have been found guilty because they have RICO law. And the RICO law, you don't, as long as you are guilty by association, the RICO law will convict you. In Ghana, the proof is different. So it's okay. Your man was acquitted. Good luck to him. But you see, if you look at the association he kept and the people that he was associated with, giving them information, what they were planning, and a court of competent jurisdiction has proved that they were planning something bad. How they were, if they arrest the president, if they catch the president, would they kill him? And they were, and I've read the judgment. There was proof in court to say that would they kill him, would they not kill him? All those things were in their conversation. So nobody can sit here and say that Mr. Godfred Odami went to court and created a storm in a teacup. No, it's not true. Nanado's government has been one of the most open, okay? Look, he's a committed lawyer. He's been in the mills. He believes in these things. We might disagree on his approach on certain things, but at least for one thing for sure, there is a court of competent jurisdiction. 9 people went, 3 were acquitted. It's not a kangaroo court where you think that the president will have influence and all 9 would have been convicted. 3 came out. So everybody listening to us today will appreciate the fact that this is not a government that interferes in the judiciary process. Because if that was the case, your client will be in jail today because he was guilty by association. And no, let me land on that. Let me land on that. Okay, let me withdraw. Okay.
There were a lot more people on the WhatsApp platform. Why would you not charge?
Okay, so let me withdraw that. The point I wanted to make was that by his association with these people, that was what landed him in the court, and is by his actions that was what landed him in court. So let's not say that somebody made things up. In your submission, you said that, my Godfrey Dami tried to do a Machiavelli.
Yeah,
what's the no? There is no Machiavelli, because my brother, he did a donation.
Instill fear.
He did donation.
The prince Machiavelli read it.
Okay. Can I finish? Okay. He did a donation of 2,000. He gave direction on how certain things should be done. Okay, and these are not an act that is a Machiavelli. He did it himself. There are 32 million people in this country. He happened to be on that platform. He had made certain pronouncements. Because of those pronouncements, the people now found that he's somebody that they could bring him on board this thing. And indeed, he was on there and he contributed money, be it for an outreach or not. That is what we are being told today. But please, let's not, as a nation, let the people watching us today think that there was much ado about nothing. It was not much ado about nothing. 6 were convicted. And I have read the judgment, the discussions they were having, the plans they were having, whether they were even using teacups, they were using utensils, or they were using plastic forks. They intended to basically commit high treason, overthrow a democratic elected government. How they do it is a different story altogether. The minute the intent is there, that's why there are 2 charges, conspiracy and committing. Some conspired, some committed. Though some charges will be different from others. That's why we have the 2 charges of the 2 counts. So please, I don't want this discussion. And my brother, Honorable Fusini, talk about fear. What is fear? I could believe in fear because I think that governance without fear is no governance.
Well, that's your view.
No, that's my view. Yes, that's what I say. I could yes. No, but what is fear? When you go into the Bible, how many times did the Lord our God use fear in the Bible? When you go to the Old Testament, when people challenge the authority in Leviticus, people challenge the authority of the tabernacle, people who were the high priest, the Lord will grandstand, and there were parts in the Bible where, to prove that he was Lord, to put fear in the people, he made the earth swallow people who challenge his authority. It's in the Bible.
Well, that
no, but I'm just
fits into leadership
but I am saying that we all my brother. Tyranny and fear are 2 different things. Let's not combine the 2.
So
a tyrannic government is different from when somebody believes that there should be fear.
So why do you differentiate between?
Well, let me tell you why I believe. No, my brother, I'm talking about me. I could believe because without fear, we have nothing. Today, the disciplines in this country is going where it's going today because nobody has fear. The reason somebody can go to, please, when I speak, let me land. The reason a young guy can do a 360 achuchi at the traffic light at the airport, right, in the broad daylight, is because there's no fear.
But let me tell you this. There's a difference between fear and the efficiency of the law. We are in a regime of the rule of law.
Yes.
You can rule with fear. That's why I say that if you are ruling with fear, you are a tyrannic leader. You can't differentiate between
I am not saying that somebody should rule with fear. I said that there should be fear. I'm not saying rule with fear. You are taking different things. The rule of law is everybody within the law. But you see, we should fear that. No. But we should have fear that when you now go against the law will take its course.
Absolutely, but that's different from
when that fear is not there.
That's different. You see, the law taking its course when you go wrong is different from ruling with fear. And
but you keep saying ruling with fear. I am not saying that Nadu should rule with fear. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there should be fear.
fear as a result.
Fear as in when people do things, they should know that the law will take its course. When that fear is not there, and you see, Honorable Fuseni said that Nanado is trying to instill fear because he will send people out to you when you oppose his government. Then all the members of parliament would have been convicted because they are always opposing his government. But they are a good opposition party, and we want them to continue to be a good opposition party. Okay? But the good thing is that everybody can express. This is not a country where people are not allowed to express themselves. This is not a country where people cannot sit on social media and insult the president. We see it every day. This is a country where now fake news, people can use Photoshop and alter the letter from the presidency. Who has been arrested on that? So I'm saying that let's not paint a picture as if Ghana, there is no intolerance, where the president is out there hunting people in corners to brag to bring them into certain accusation. That is not true. You go and keep a certain company, you bear the fruit of the company you keep. And that is Martin's client. He had a certain company, and that company took him to court.
In Ghana, there's no guilty by association.
Well, please. I'm not saying that, but he's not guilty. He was found not guilty by a competent court. I'm saying that the reason he landed in court is because of the association and the friends he kept.
There were a lot more people on that.
But he's your friend, your client is the only one who was unfortunate to be there. So please, let's applaud this government for allowing freedom of speech. In fact, the libel law, which was on our status for so many years, was passed by who? Okay? If any government is the MPP, the party is the one that has always been in power to pass some of these laws that allow freedom of speech. When you repeal the libel law, okay? When we have done a lot to enhance journalism in Ghana. But everybody will sit back and say, oh, they're being tisa. But that's the truth. The MPP in power has done all these things. So please, there's no fear. And I think we should stop when we are discussing when people have gone into secrecy to plot, find out whether when we catch the president, we will kill him or will not kill him. When people discuss those things and it goes to a court of competent jurisdiction and some are found guilty, we shouldn't make it an another bashing. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, that if you look at the Press Freedom Index, it is at variance with your claim about the press freedom and what this government has done for journalists. Consistently over the period, the Press Freedom Index will have declined in terms of ranking.
But that's a perception. It's perceived.
It is not perception. There's a difference. You're talking about Corruption Perception Index.
No, but the thing you're talking about is perceived.
No.
Okay, so if it's not perceived, tell me one person that was arrested and jailed because he's a journalist.
There are two different indexes.
Okay.
There's a Corruption Perception Index, and there's the World Press Freedom Ranking. That's not done on perception.
Okay.
It's done taking into consideration cases that have happened over the period in this country with respect to journalists who are being abused in this country. And it is catalogued. And I'll share that with you. And consistently we have declined. And that's where the concern is. So if you talk about journalism and press freedom and so on, I disagree. Based on the facts.
From
in
62.
Corruption. This is the Press Freedom Index put together. So that's specific, and it's a fact that is there.
Can I say something on that?
Can see. Now I'll come to you on that. Let me, Professor Jambo, on this particular case.
Well, congratulations to Martin and congratulations to Dr. Agoo. Everybody knows that I don't like coups, military interventions, and or whatever is done to kill the state. Coup d'etat simply means killing the state. And so I don't like it. I want the state to be able to continue to exist, to be strong, and to deliver on its mandate. And so I do not like coups. So I support every move that is put in place to ensure that the constitution of the land is not usurped and coups do not become the means of bringing about change. Many people talk about coups and argue that this may be the way to go in addressing challenges confronting us. And clearly, you study them, you look at their age and their experience and their education, and you know that completely they have no idea of the kinds of things that take place when there is coup. And so then they just talk. But I've always referred them to go read the PhD thesis of my teacher, Professor Michael Quay. He wrote about human rights abuses during military interventions. And if you go read, you will have to revise your notes about talking about. So I do not favor treason. Anything that is treasonable, anything that will bring about the killing of the state, I think people who do that should be made to face the full law. But on this particular case, and with specific reference to Dr. Agoo, I think that there was a certain level of high-handedness, political high-handedness in handling the matter, with specific reference to Agoo. It appears to me, but that is what it is, that in Ghana, leadership prefer to have people gossip about systems without being open about systems. That is what we prefer. And leadership have often led in a manner that perpetuates this, so that if things are bad, leaders want us to gossip about those bad things without bringing them into the open. I'll give examples and conclude my submission on this. So I go to a hospital in my hometown wanting to adopt the hospital, and the doctor, the medical superintendent then, not the current one, the previous one, I engage him in discussions about what is wrong with the hospital. Now, off camera, I went with one of your colleagues. Yeah, your colleagues. I think she's in the UK now. Is it Catherine or something? Yes. She followed Catherine, me. Yeah, Frimpoma. Yeah. So she, this medical superintendent, narrates the challenges confronting the hospital to me privately, and I said, "Wow, these are very tremendous, imponderable, very, very serious, challenges." And so, unfortunately, I have a reporter here. Can you sit and allow her to interview? Then this man goes to sit in front of the camera and does a U-turn, saying everything is right. So in the course of the interview, at one point, I said, "Please cut it. I think we are not a serious-minded people." So everything was right, but between me and him, everything was. So I asked, "But why did you do that?" I said, "You want me to be the one saying this in public? Do you want me to lose my job or to be transferred?" Yes. Now, my daughter goes to Wesley Girls High School. The whole of Form 1, they don't have teachers. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. So I go there. Some teachers whisper it to me behind the scenes, and so I go there. We created a platform. I started articulating some of these concerns. We went for a PTA meeting. The headmistress came there, and he said all was right. Everything was right.
That was what the headmistress told.
Everything was okay, to the point that some of the parents started taking issues with me. But the headmistress said everything is right, so why are you? Then the headmistress was saying that everything was right. At one point in time in her speech, started narrating some problems. And so I got frustrated, and I got up. I said, "Let's begin to do contributions to help." When I said that, you know what happened? The headmistress lined up all the teachers and said, "Let's leave the room, because we are scared of being there for funds to be raised." Fear. So you see, the point is, and it happens in many public sectors. You see, we are practicing free SHS. You see, without Dr. Educhum is a very good friend of mine. But you see, he knows, and my view is that see, there are imponderable challenges with this free SHS system. When we go to talk to the headmistresses and headmasters, they tell us. But when parents go, or when they are confronted with the media, they are unable to. The system is such that there is a certain fear that if you articulate this thing in public, you will be dealt with. Yeah. Now, on the contrary, people like Agojo and myself, we don't fear.
Exactly.
So, Agojo stands. One day, when I was working at the IEA, we invited him and we gave him the platform. The kinds of things he said about the police service, my heart started beating. I said, hey, this man is very courageous and brave. Exposing some of the dangers, was talking about the mode of appointment of the IGP.
Yeah.
And the kinds of things that he said. Subsequently, anytime he mounted the platform, he spoke seriously about the challenges of the police service and how we have attempted to politicize, we keep politicizing that institution that is expected to stand credibly in delivering services, good services to the people of Ghana. He's been talking about this. So in this particular matter, I think his only challenge was the fact that he's been candid, he's been too honest, he's been too bold, he's been too confident, he's been too vociferous, he's been too erudite, and he's been too articulate. Okay, otherwise, you see, when you are talking, I was just listening. You are telling me that there were so many people on that platform. Why was he the one? Was he singled out? It appears to me that given the fact that he's been very bold about things, and people felt that, well, if we subject him through this particular route, then we'll be able to silence him. But I think that
and other public officers,
yes,
that's actually a chilling effect. It will tell a chilling effect.
Well, but I think that in good governance, this is not the way to go. We should also learn to cherish people who are forthright. We should learn to cherish people who want to be articulate, and they are honest, they are candid, they are frank. We should cherish them, because in so doing, we'll be able to know problems that are hidden. And if we mean well as a people who have been given the fiduciary trust of the people to govern, if we mean well, when we hear them, we would be able to proffer solutions. I quite remember that during Jerry Rawlins's time, there was a woman who is a graphic reporter, is it Elizabeth Ohene or something, who wrote something that was very harsh against Rawlins, and people felt that she was going to be dealt with. But I'm told Rawlins brought her up, told her that, no, don't do anything where she's demonstrated a certain boldness and confidence. And so people felt that she was going to be brutal. I mean, those days, culture of silence, if you spoke against the regime, you either got lost or you were given a certain raw deal. But this lady was not punished. But Rawlins said she's demonstrated a certain confidence that doesn't come cheap. So I think that we should look at ourselves well as a nation, and it's becoming one too many. Ghanaians, as a people, we like to gossip too much. Okay, we like to gossip. Let me tell you. So I was driving, and then I stopped. There was a car reverse, and there was a car. I don't know whether it had failed brake or something. It came back and then rather came to hit my car. And then people behind me said, "This one, if you take it to court, we'll be there, and we'll be there to provide evidence and all that." When it mattered, they had to come and give the evidence. Say, "Oh, Fama Nyame, we said it, but we don't want to be out there." And that is who we are. A nation whose citizens are gossips do not experience serious development. A nation whose citizens are willing to voice out what is wrong for the purposes of drawing attention to the ills of society they are a people who are able to keep regimes on their toes, leaders on their toes, and get these leaders to fix problems. So I think that, Agojo, congratulations to you once again. Like I said, it is because of your forthrightness and candor that landed you into this. And but you see, it is bad. I've always argued that I was among those who said that we are not in the days of culture of silence. I've always argued, because I always use my own self as an example, that I've been out there always talking about the government. Sometimes you have social media, political land guards coming after you, insulting you. But I see that as normal. I have the right to speak against the government. People have the right to speak against you. I have not had, seriously, I have not had any official government position against me. Or I cannot say that I feel intimidated. Government is trying to do something to gag me or silence. I've not seen that. I've not seen that. And so I do not want to subscribe to the view that we are getting back to into a culture of silence. But in Agojo's case, and then in other cases that we have heard, they show the pointer, or they point to the fact that if we don't take care gradually, we may be getting into the realms of culture of silence, and it is not good for our democracy, especially when President Akufo-Addo got to power. Because one of the reasons why he got to power was the fact that he was seen as a Democrat, even though now there are things that are happening that are forcing people to review their description of him as Democrat. I think that people who want to be forthright should be respected. They should be allowed to speak. Once they are not picking a gun, their mouths are not guns. Once they are not using guns to overthrow and they just want to be forthright, we should tolerate them, we should respect them, and we should see them as, one out of many who will be able to illuminate the challenges confronting systems, and these challenges, when brought up and unearthed, should attract the needed attention for redress. When the challenges are exposed, those who expose them should not be dealt with in a manner that instills a certain fear in them. I think if we do that, then we would continue to remain as a transitional democracy. We'll continue to be crawling in our effort to climb higher the ladder of democratic progression.
Okay.
Alfred,
Thank you.
Something quickly.
No, but I need to go on to Zoom now, where Professor Etia has been, Professor P.J. Etia has been on for quite a while. He is a professor of law, an associate professor of law at the School of Law, University of Ghana, Legon. Professor P.J. Etia, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. And I do apologize for keeping you on for this period, but thank you. Appreciate your patience. Now, you've been following the conversation in the studio this morning, specifically on the outcome of this case that has been going on for a little over 3 years now. These 6 persons were going to appeal this sentence of death by hanging, 3 who have been acquitted and discharged. Now, the man whom we've highlighted over the period, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, whose lawyer is in the studio, Martin Pebo, makes a strong case about this particular targeting of him being an attempt to silence other public officers who want to speak about the ills of governance. I found out your take on this, the outcome of this case so far.
Thank you for having me. I think the case is a victory for democracy. It's a victory for the rule of law and a victory for human rights. And at the same time, it's very unfortunate that Dr. Agojo should endure these challenges from the states for so many years. And from the narrative and the facts that have been spelled out, the decision of the courts, it clearly shows a violation of at least 2 of his rights: right to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. And as a result of violation of these freedoms, his right to dignity has also been violated. And if you also look at it in the context of the fact that he was interdicted and he wasn't on full salary and he wasn't able to work. This is a consultant for the UN and he works for the UN, so on. So that meant that he couldn't do such, take such responsibilities as well. He certainly would have dampened his spirits, and there is the need for compensation, for reinstatement, and even to be given any promotion that he would have deserved when he was in office. I understand he's on retirement now, but this could still be done, because I know there are some cases where posthumously people have been promoted. And so looking at the way the matter has panned out, I took time to read the judgment, especially concerning where his case comes into the picture. And it clearly shows that they didn't have the evidence to have proceeded with the case at all. So if you look into the context of his vociferousness, his ability, freedom to speak his mind, and so on, one may infer that his open-mindedness, his readiness to speak about injustice and what is wrong in a system may have accounted for the way he was treated. And so it's important that we take this into account in discussing the Agoo story, and to come to the conclusion that, as I heard Professor Jampo say, to respect freedom of expression and not to gradually lead or allow the state to be slip into a police state, because there are indicators of that. In looking at our human rights record for the past 4 or 5 years, we are slipping, we are going down the ladder. In some cases, we are described as a weak democracy, in some cases as a flawed democracy, and so on. And so, in some respects, I could also say that Dr. Agoo could fall into the case of a prisoner of conscience, somebody who speaks his mind and challenges authority, not in a way as to provoke a coup d'etat, as he was labeled to have done. And we also need to take into account the fact that if we don't speak out against such actions by the state, we may end up supporting the state to continue to do these things. Because it is not only Dr. Agoo. We have the Oliver Bamawo case. We have statements by Minister of National Security talking about those who talk about coup d'etat and so on, specifically targeting academics within the university community for doing such discussions, and which he believes is a recipe for destabilization of the country. This is a case of securitization, trying to imagine a non-existential threat, and as a way of justifying the use of excessive force to control the situation and bring it under control. It's just a question of allowing people to vent their concerns and for the government to hear and to respond to them. That is what governance is about. So we don't expect to call ourselves a democracy, and we are not ready to allow people to talk about issues, because at the end of the day, let's be on the lookout. Very soon, U.S. State Department report will come out. Amnesty International human rights report will come out, and so on. Even my own students, we are putting together a human rights report. It will show that Ghana's human rights record is going down, and that is not good for the country. So in a country where you live in, if you refer to social contract theory, I think Professor Jampo will know that better than I do. But from the legal angle, John Locke was saying that don't give all your rights. He was challenging his view. Yeah. Don't give all your rights to the Leviathan, because you need to keep some of your rights, so that in case of a violation by the Leviathan or the government,
you can just kick him off.
You can fight the government and even overthrow the government. Yeah. If you refer to the U.S. Constitution, it recognizes the need to change government where these excesses can be present. The French Revolution talked about that. So it's an important element of democracy that we criticize. and we're able to respond to the criticism, but not to suppress free expression, demonstrations, and so on. We know what the police have also been doing in terms of brutalizing demonstrators and so on. And the IGP had to come in to say, please, you are going to allow them to demonstrate. And the IGP only went as far as saying that allow them to demonstrate. No sanctions, no disciplinary proceedings against those who brutalize the demonstrators. So if we are not careful, we will end up in a situation as we're limited to being gossiping, as Professor Jampo has said. And that is where it will lead us into the culture of silence. And we are moving towards that space. And so we need to be very careful, and we need to speak up so that Dr. Agozo's case will be an example for us to always make sure that we respect such people, and we all should have the courage to say things when they are going wrong, and to also to praise the government when they are doing right. It's not just criticism's sake. We have talked about situations where the government is doing well. For example, the Ashaman case, which yesterday the committee issued the report. The report is very positive. It's just the next step is implementation. In fact, some of us were not expecting that the committee would have done anything good, would have even sat and come to a conclusion. So this is something positive.
But you know that on that score, you and I last night in private were having a conversation about that report and some of the loopholes in there, which could have been done right. So yes, it is good, but it doesn't wholly address the concern that we're hoping the committee's work will address with respect to the military's actions in Ashaman. That you agree, correct?
Definitely I agree, yes. I don't know, it's not the subject matter for discussion. Now, I just wanted to slip in that point, but yes, there are some other issues that we can talk about with respect to the reports.
But you make an important point. That in fact, it's an important element of democracy that we criticize government to the effect that government only has the mandate to rule because the people surrendered our power to government through part of our power through an election to government to rule. So definitely, I mean, when the president talks about we being citizens and not spectators, that was an invitation to criticize, is it not? And what we are saying now.
Exactly, yes.
And as we speak, the concern is...
I go...
Prof, I lost you a bit. If you could just make that point again.
Yes, I was saying that I agree with the question you put to me. And I'm saying that if you look at the basis of Dr. Agojo's case, that he was proposing or supporting an Arab Spring or suggesting that Arab Spring conditions existed in the country, that is not agitating for a coup d'etat. Arab Spring is a popular people's revolution, and you cannot stop the people from challenging government. Sovereignty lies in the people, and it's the people that elect government. So where there are excesses, where the government is not responding to the needs of the people, such an uprising is not a bunch of military officers who take up arms to win power and they represent their own interests. It's the people themselves who spontaneously go out and challenge the government, and it could lead to an overthrow of government. And that is a people-led revolution. That is different from a military coup d'etat. And so his expressing his views on the Arab Spring was definitely within the bounds of his right to freedom of expression and the right to organize demonstrations or freedom of peaceful assembly. Thank you.
Appreciate the time. Thank you very much. But I've also, Professor Tia, before I let you go, I've got indication that indeed the lawyers of ACP Dr. Agojo have the indication of appeal, they're seeking some compensation of a sort for him, as you indicated. So Lawyer Martin Pebo is here with us. You indicated, Lawyer Martin Pebo, that you're going to sue for malicious prosecution. you're going to sue the state.
Yes, it's on the table, considering it. That's the area of the law that gives compensation to citizens. That's a court to give compensation to citizens once it's found that the state activated the criminal justice system without justification, like in this case. So let's say, when we say malicious prosecution, so let's say Touchwood, but Mr. Kojo Poku goes to report Professor Jampon to Legon Police that he has beaten XYZ, or let's say he has beaten Mr. X.
Mm-hmm.
He knows it's not true, Touchwood, but he tells them, no, it's true, arrest him. I was there when he did it. Then he gets him arrested, then he concocts evidence, then the case goes up to a while, and Professor Jampo gets acquitted. In this case, the thing is that once it shows that Kojo Poku did not allow the police to do their independent work, but he kept briefing down their neck and concocted evidence and got Jampo tried, but finally Jampo won. Then it's Kojo Poku that will be sued for malicious prosecution because he didn't allow the police to do an independent job. You see, that's a distinction. If you just simply, so let's explain it well so that people are not discouraged from reporting cases. If you see it and you go to report, then you allow the police to do their independent work.
Right.
Even if the person is acquitted, there's no wrong for you.
Okay.
But where you know the person hasn't committed an offense, then you concoct evidence. I'll show you where power lies. I'll show you that thing. If eventually the person gets acquitted, he can sue for malicious prosecution. In this case, Agojo's case, I'm telling you that Godfrey Dame cannot look me in the eye and tell me that he had a case against Agojo. No, it was just Machiavellian tactics.
So you're going to sue for, or it's on the table?
Yes.
To sue for the
malicious
state, malicious prosecution.
Yes, against Godfrey Dame.
I see. So, and you ask for a consideration of the extension of it, or he should be given some kind of contract?
Good. So, yes, what I mentioned was that, so if the state is minded to give him an extension of is minded to give him a contract, you know, under the Constitution, Article 199, every public officer is to retire at age 60. There are exceptions, judges, etc. I'm not talking about the exceptions now.
Okay.
But after 199 clause 4 also says that even when a public officer is on retirement, the state can give him contracts, extension, 2, 1, by in total not exceeding 5 years. Yeah, so they can use that to restore him a bit because Godfrey Dame and Kufa, they've just destroyed the man and his whole family. It's good. It's bad. It's extremely bad. The least they can do is that, look, they'll tell IGP Dampare to give him 2 years to start with, so that, remember, Agojo was doing transformation of the police service. IGP Dampare needs that. We need to transform the police service. You see what the Ashama, the military, did to our fellow citizens, poison citizens with gutter water, etc. The police are killing citizens. You know, Botiano, and the IGP Dampare's watch gunned down 9 citizens in Botiano. It's a case that's currently ongoing. You don't even know where it's going. Other human rights abuses in the police system, in the police service. So you need a transformation to continue. And Agojo was the expert on it. He was director of police transformation. So let him come back to continue. Because listen, like I'm happy Professor Tia mentioned John Locke, etc., right? Yeah. So the Locke system of governance, you see, Reagan is noted for being the champion. Yes, when they give you, what they say is that make the state small, right? Security, yes, you want the state to provide for security, etc., right? But when the state turns around and is gunning down citizens, killing citizens, do we have a state? So if you listen, you look at it,
but this alleged.
What the people died in Botiano, PID.
It wasn't the state that gunned them down, so it's alleged. If
the police officers.
Yes, but it's alleged. It's
what alleged? They died. Don't say, please don't annoy the families of the people. Botiano.
So this you mentioned the state.
Yes, but
it's running in court.
Oh, but you can't say the state. No.
What is the state?
No. So when we say the state gunned down, that's stretching it.
What were the police doing?
It's debatable.
No, what were the police doing? Did you send the
No, we're on TV.
I think that
you're a lawyer. We're on
TV.
And when you say the state gunned down,
Yes.
And the people watching us might not understand it the same as
it's rogue
police. Rogue policemen, please. Rogue policemen going out on duty and some incident then gunning down some civilians. It's not the same as the state gunning down.
Let me explain. Alfred, give me 1 minute to explain. Let me explain. I'm a lawyer. Let me explain this area. This is an area. I teach it
what I'm saying is that
this is not necessary. I think let's educate.
Yeah, but when those statements are made, for me, it's a problem. When you say the state gun down,
you didn't have an entity called the state wielding a gun.
Yes, but don't use it. But don't use it.
Okay,
So say the police gun down. Don't say the state. Because we're on TV. People listening to us might end up thinking that who is the state?
So let me explain.
The education needs to go before you do that.
So very good. So let me explain how it's done. So in the law of torts, right? We have what we call vicarious liability. Just forget about it. At least you appreciate the substance. So this is it. An employee works for the employer, right? So in this case, the police work for the state, right? So in carrying out your duties, there are certain things, if you go overboard, you may be held personally liable. But in certain instances too, if you are trying to carry out the duty within what you were told to do, and you kill or maim or injure other persons, it's the state that's held liable. So when I say the state, for me, they were in uniform, or even you don't even need the uniform, but they were carrying out.
That's what I'm saying. That bit is alleged. Nobody told them to do that. So that bit is alleged.
So nobody told them.
So that's what I'm saying. That
presumption is that
exactly.
They were doing it for the state. So for the state to go to court and say that no, they went too far overboard.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Okay, so the gentleman,
because we don't know for a fact that the state told them to do that.
So you see, the establishment is that the police, as identified as the agent of the state, acting in that regard. This case is in court. It's running in court as we speak. Prophet Apiajetua, I know you want to leave us, so I want just quickly round up with you on it. At least, unfortunately, we lost him. We lost him on.
I was going to say something.
Yes.
Before you're flowing there.
Hold on. Could you please round up?
Yeah, just the last bit.
Round up for me.
Yes. So you asked me about the contract. So I said, so we have to try and restore him because we can't destroy a man like this. He's a hero of our democracy. Article 21 of the Constitution has been given a new lease of breath by Justices Ifya Sewa, etc. Right? Yes. So let's try and do something. Let's reward him that he fought. That so now citizens know that when you say Arab Spring, you've said nothing. And that's why Akufo-Addo came on the back of Arab Spring. And also see citizen Samson Ayenini, let's mention. He came to testify for Agojo. And it was quite a critical part of the defense. Yes, yes. You find the judges happy that he came to show that Agojo never had any intentions of a coup d'etat because he consulted Ladi Ayenini for advice and how to go to the Supreme Court to to challenge certain things that national security was doing. So you don't call such a person a coup plotter.
Right. Well, my brother, Professor Jampo, said something that for me, I loved it. You see, there are two issues that we are discussing.
I'm running up on this.
Yes, I have quickly. We have two issues we are discussing. Fear of the rule of law, knowing that if you do the wrong, the rule of law will persist and the rightful thing will be done. It's different from fear within a person not wanting to do the right thing. He said that a woman who spoke in front of Rawlings was applauded by Rawlings. It tells you that the fear within us as human beings not speaking out is not because something will be done. My brother here has always been on TV. Martin has been on TV talking about the president, and he's been here bashing. Nothing happens to him. He's free. So let's not stop. Right. Let's stop this thing.
Okay. So we're just talking about. You talked about in terms of.
Quick one.
The law. But that is, the law works and works perfectly when there's voluntary submission to the efficacy of the law. It's not by compulsion. The people become responsible, useful, dutiful citizens when they voluntarily submit to the law. If they don't submit to the law works. The law takes its course. That's different from fear. Now, when Professor Jampo says, nation of gossipers, I say a nation of whisperers.
Okay.
And a nation of whisperers or gossipers arise or come about as a result of the culture of silence. And the culture of silence is simply the consequences of speaking aloud. And that goes to buttress the thesis that it is fear which makes people whisper or gossip.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to understand how
the dynamics works. Professor Dapaah.
Well, I would round up by making a passionate call on President Akufo-Addo. Dear President Akufo-Addo, I don't know you that much, but there is a perception about you, even being held about, by people around you, that you are a very vindictive and unforgiving person. I would respectfully urge you or plead with you that restore Dr. Agojo by doing something to compensate for the destruction of his name, the opportunities that have been destroyed, his family and all that. Let us do, I respectfully urge you and plead with you that if it is possible, give him a certain extension of his contract. It's not going to be the first time that a police officer has had a contract, extended. So just to compensate for the losses, I would respectfully urge you or plead with you that you give him a certain contract extension as a way of proving to people who perceive you as being too vindictive and unforgiving.
Professor Dapaah, thank you very much. Now, that issue leads us to our next matter. The Office of Special Prosecutor has now given further and better particulars. They have handed over this Cecilia Dapaah case to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, because the Special Prosecutor says that per his investigations, the money involved in this saga, which has been running for the past 11 months now, is largely within the realms of money laundering, and that EOCO is better clothed with the law to investigate money laundering. There are a few concerns that have been raised by the Special Prosecutor's conclusion on this matter. That is up right after this quick break, because some very interesting detail I'm going to put out for you on this issue here on the key point. So stay tuned in. And we're going to play an exclusive, very quick insert from ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo. You will hear from him after this quick break. Stay with us.
Presentation that I did in 2018, where I critiqued not sitting government, but a system in place where the police council is dominated by the party in power and the government in power. And for that matter, we could not have an independent police operating, because definitely they're in your hands and you could move them. You could move the IGP anywhere, anytime, and the commissioners could be moved anyhow. The president at any point in time could instruct where a particular commissioner should be, because it is part of the constitution. And therefore I critique that system. I think from that point, looking at the people at the forum or at the workshop, and the fact that defense intelligence and other people, the CID, the police corpus and other people were there, once you begin to talk about this kind of things in a tough way, and especially in uniform, as an assistant commissioner, you are on national security radar, and they'll be watching you. And even after my presentation, a lot of friends, even from their own side, called me to say, look, be careful, they are looking out for you. The least thing you do, they'll take you on. And so I wasn't surprised.
I see.
And earlier on, I had said that a very senior member of government had threatened me on a platform that I shared with him for expressing my opinion on what constitutes civil uprising. We were all discussing. After a while, he came back to say he's off the line or he's off the mark. He must be brought to order. So all these things played on my mind, and I knew where it was coming from. I have a whole book that will be launching very soon, and I must be frank with you. And I'm working on it. I'm finalizing it. It's been edited at various places already. I've talked about my deal at the BNI. I've talked about some of the inhumane treatment over there. I've talked about the fact that they do not allow lawyers there, and some of the things that some of my colleagues told me about them, because remember during the second arrest, they put all of us together in one custody. And therefore, we were able to interact and share ideas as to what happened to each of us, which I've put on paper. And
tell me a little bit about that.
I want to, for instance, say that in some cases, some of them were beaten.
Were you beaten?
Nobody could touch me.
Why do you think they couldn't touch you?
Because they knew I know them very well, and therefore they could not do that to me. But they did it to others. And for instance, they took people's secret codes on their phones and accessed and forced them, which should have been done at the court with a court order. But they tortured some of them, and that's their own testimony, and they gave it even in open court.
Welcome back. This is the key point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. That is ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo, the man. In fact, the full interview with Kemini on hot issues will be played tomorrow at 2 p.m. You'd want to make a date and tune in, because there's some interesting detail that ACP Dr. Benjamin Agoo retired. Now, he's retired now. We do know he put out there. So 2 p.m. tomorrow on TV3, make a date for hot issues. That full detail interview will be on. Now, our next issue, the special prosecutor has washed his hands of this Cecilia Dapaah case. After 11 months of investigations, going to court, back and forth, well, he says that based on the information and the evidence he's gathered so far, this case largely borders on money laundering. And so he's handed this case over to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. Take a listen to the special prosecutor. He addressed the press this week. Take a listen to him.
Operation of law, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, has a specific and direct mandate in respect of suspected cases of money laundering and its attendant activity of structuring. Consequently, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is referring the case to EOCO for continued investigation and further action. The office will be in close collaboration with EOCO and continued collaboration with the FBI. A little over an hour ago, the office discontinued its application that was pending before the High Court for a confirmation of the seizure and freezing orders in pursuance of the referral of the case to EOCO. The court ordered that the office should return the cash sums and defreeze the account of an investment of Ms. Dapaah within 72 hours. The office also discontinued the procedural criminal charge against Ms. Dapaah for failure to return forms on declaration of property and income, since that was mounted on the original application for confirmation of the seizure and freezing orders, which was discontinued earlier in time.
That's a special prosecutor there. Now, and I have a number of your messages I'll run through. Let me first of all put an apology ahead that the 1.3K, that's 1,300 messages we have this morning. I unfortunately, I cannot read all of them, but we do acknowledge the fact that you even sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you all taking some time to send your messages. Thank you. This is from Mike Kofi Aflu, says we should cherish people who are forthright, people who are candid, and also when we hear them, we shall discover hidden problems and address them. That's from Mike Aflu, quoting Professor Ransford Jampo there. This one also from, it says, Stephen Peng from Wa. Good morning, Mr. Okansi. I like the delivery of your panelists, and particularly says all the others who are speaking truth to power. I like the analysis of the issues, and it says Professor Jampo is his darling boy. This one here from Musa Batua in Asawasi. It says, I'm not supporting any comments of coup, but ACP Agoo's trial, he says, was politically motivated. And also, the light has been shown now. Hadi from Pig Farm, thank you for the message. It says the good people of Ghana will never be put the destiny of this great nation. This one from Carlos made reference to what Kojo said about the death penalty still on the books in the U.S. It says Alabama execution, nitrogen, what we know. It just made reference to buttress a point, Kojo, you made earlier. Thank you very much for the messages. I do also acknowledge as well those who are commenting on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Thank you very much for those messages as well. And as I indicated, kindly accept my apology. We cannot read the over 1,000 messages we have on this matter. Please forgive me. But let's set the basis for this conversation with the special prosecutor. Take a look at this. From what we do know, this is how the timelines have been. According to the specific law that the special prosecutor references, Section 1.2 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act, 2020, Act 1044, says a person commits an offense of money laundering if the person knows or ought to have known that a property is or forms part of the proceeds. Let's go back. Form part of the proceeds of unlawful activity. And so keep in mind that the establishment of a case of money laundering is upon the establishment of the proceeds of unlawful activity, and the person, A, converts, conceals, disguises, or transfers the property for the purposes of concealing or disguising the illicit origin of the property, or assisting any person who is involved in the commission of the unlawful activity to evade the legal consequence of the unlawful activity. So, it continues that conceals or disguises the true nature, source, location, disposition, movement, or ownership of, or rights to the property, or acquires, uses, or takes possession of the property, knowing or suspecting at the time of receipt of the property that the property is or forms part of the proceeds of unlawful activity. Keep in mind the first part of Section 1.2 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, the first slide. Now, that establishes the concerns that some others have about the conclusions that the special prosecutor makes with respect to this case. Has there been an establishment of the unlawful activity that Cecilia Dapaah was involved in? Reason why he believes that this case largely is or borders on money laundering. What is that unlawful activity the special prosecutor has not mentioned as yet? Let me start off with you, Lawyer Martin Pebo, on this, because it's a case you have followed quite closely as well. Do you share in that concern that others have, specifically about the doubts of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, not necessarily because they don't have the mandate and the resource to do this, but because of the nature of this case, that they or we may not have as much detail as we've seen in this, how the special prosecutor has prosecuted this case over the period?
Yes, Mr. Counsel, I share a bit in the doubt, not 100%, okay, for reasons that I'll explain, but some of it. And the reason I'll share in the doubt is that I want Mamiti Wadu Dankwa to then know that, look, then she has to prove us wrong quickly. Okay. That's why I will join the naysayers. Because if we sit here, or if we sat here and praise, sang Mamiti Wadu Dankwa, then she'll get swollen-headed and will not get results. So for tactical reasons, I'll join the naysayers partly, and partly with them and partly with Yoko. Yes, you can partly belong here and partly belong there, right? An eclectic approach. And that will help our governance, because when we do that, there's going to be an incentive, because this is her make or break case. This is Cecilia Dapaah case. It's going to be Mami Tiwa Dankwa's make or break case. You see, because you remember the other political, what do you call it, case that went. The time Abu Jinapo and Asensu were deputy chiefs of staff, A+ reported that they were collecting money before allowing people to see President Kufuor. A practice that has been there for long. It didn't start now. She bungled the case, and we are not happy about it. Okay, we are not happy about it. You see, recently, Kennedy Japan even gave further evidence, further and better particulars on the collection of money before people were allowed to see President Kufuor.
And that's why there have been calls for the state to...
It was just the statement made by Kennedy. Please, what was the further and better particulars that he gave? Because somebody retweeted the statement, it's further and better particulars.
Let's not digress.
No, but let's correct some of these
I just think that, and we made that call.
I'm attacking you because you just
made that call.
Why are you two today? Why?
No, but no. You see, the viewers need to be educated. It's very important.
We made the call.
No. Hold on. When my uncle Kennedy reiterates something, it's not further and better particulars.
We made the point on this show that day that beyond the statement Kennedy Japan makes, the state must take it up to investigate, to establish beyond reasonable doubt the veracity or otherwise of some of the statements he makes. So that's a case that has been established already.
Yes. So, and the reason, as I say, I'm joining the naysayers is that you see A+ recorded Mami Tiwa, where Mami Tiwa was now begging A+ not to press the case because it will throw a Kufuor in a bad light. You see it? That's the genesis. Yeah, that tape, do you deny it? A+ recorded Mami Tiwa. So because of that history,
come back to this.
Then there was a case of Sewa Bruni, that one too. So because there is a certain history that Mami Tiwa has not done as well as a state, has not done as well. Done well
so that's why you raised out by you join in the naysayers.
Yes, that part.
But then you disagree on one part.
Because the reason I'll disagree. Okay, sorry.
Okay, let's stay on course.
The case was reported.
Let's stay on course.
Sewa Bruni. Prof is interested.
No, that is not a subject of conversation this morning.
Okay. Then let's
stay on course.
Now, the reason I'll support Mami Tiwa in this case, and I believe she can do it, is that, and you know, she has able lieutenants, Abu Issa and the rest, right? I believe they will do it because, you see, there's this provision there, Anti-Money Laundering Act, that says that, so we are talking about Act 1044. So go to section 2. Let me look at the number. Okay, I'll make the point whilst I get it for you. They say that when you are caught with money and you are not able to explain, the source, how you earned it, then it will be deemed that you've committed the offense.
Okay.
So this reduces the burden on the state. Let's read it. It says, so that's section 1, subsection 3. It says, where a person under investigation for money laundering is in possession or control of property which the person cannot account for and which is disproportionate to the income of that person from known sources, that person shall be deemed to have committed an offense under subsection 2. And when you go to subsection 2, that is what you read out earlier. So the burden is being reduced extensively. So in law, or even in other English, this is what I'm tempted to call an open and shut case. Easy. We are not going to lose this case. There is no space for us to lose this case because so far, you see the reports Mr. Jabin did. When Madam Dapaah was asked to explain the source of the money, one, she said her deceased brother's money. Later, she recanted it. 2, she mentioned 2 companies, cosmetic companies. Then OSP went and checked, and in the report, you know, OSP issued a report last year. That story didn't check out. Then 3, you go to Article 78, Clause 3. As a minister, if she was going to do any business, she needed permission from the speaker. So far, that has not been done. I know even last week when we were here, Honorable Kofi Adams read it. Article 78, clause 3. Let's repeat, because sometimes, we need a repetition to be able to remember. So for these reasons, we are not going to lose this case.
Okay.
And so that also means that, Mr. Okanse, can we ask Mami Tiwa, I hope they've collected the money, because though the court has said it should be returned
well, that is the other aspect of it. The special prosecutor went to court, discontinued the case against Cecilia Dapaah. The court has ordered within 72 hours that he should return all property that he has seized, including the $590,000 and the 2.3 million seized.
2.7. 2.7. 2,730,000
to Cecilia Dapaah.
Yes.
The court says return it in 72 hours. Why do you want Ioko to take the money when the court has ordered that the OSP should release the money to her?
Because Ioko is a new institution, so relatively, let me call it new. Another institution coming in. So I expect that it will be done in such a way that at the point that Mr. Ejabin is handing over the money to Mr. Dapaah, Ioko will be behind. So when Mr. Ejabin and his officers step out, then Ioko will just enter and say, Madam, please, just bring the money, let's go and keep it. Because we do, under the law.
No, but you have to charge her and go to the process.
Oh, you don't need a charge first. No, once the thing has been referred, David, Mr. No, Kojopuku,
referred as
please,
how?
this are law.
No, but you're a lawyer.
So relax.
No, but you see, when one institution, we educate some of these things. Let's educate again.
Listen.
One institution transferring the case to another institution, the person cannot be standing behind him and collect the money there. You need to now start a process. Let's educate. It's very important.
If you get to your point, hold on. They are going to.
Don't they?
You've seen instances where
once you are freed
and you arrest, you present the person to court.
So you listen.
What is the no? You can arrest somebody. You can arrest somebody without taking the person to court.
It's within 48 hours. I even went to court.
But can you confiscate money?
Okay, so can you let him finish?
But let's not do that. Let's tell the people the truth. You can't just arrest somebody and confiscate his money. What order do you have to confiscate money? There's a confiscation order you have to go to court for.
But you have the right. You have the right to also say your point. So you
listen.
What he's saying.
Gentlemen, hold on.
You say the truth.
Okay.
One person cannot arrest and tap and collect the money. How is that?
Listen.
But how
but that's why he's being asked to return the money. Because you don't follow due process.
No.
Your microphone is off. Your microphone is off. Thank you. Now, Lawyer Martin Pebo, proceed with your point.
No, I think let's do something. Please, you're a lay person.
When it gets to your point,
I'm not bad as a lawyer. If I was that bad, I'm not sure I'll be sitting here. So I beg you, listen, you ask questions. Don't start challenging. You're a lay person. You don't understand these things you're doing. As a lawyer, I also will admit that it's not everything I know in law, but these ones, they are basics. So just ask questions. Oh, lawyer, how about this? But you're challenging, saying that I'm wrong. So let's go on this way. You see, under the law, just like under the OSP Act, Ioko can freeze, can seize for a period before they also go to court. So once Kisi hands over, they can also then just immediately enter and take. Okay? And they have 14 days before they go to court. That's the law. Hey, if you say, go and look for a court order and come, by the time you've come, the money is gone. What are you going to do? So I can't foresee Mr. Ejabin handing over this money to Madam Dapaah when Ioko is not close by to immediately collect. Hey, that would be dangerous.
Right.
Please. So under the law, so Mr. Kojopuku then for our viewers too. So under the Act 959, that's the OSP one. When he comes into your house and he sees maybe your gold watches, $50,000, worth $100,000, whatever, money, if he seizes, so immediately with a court warrant, he can take, but he has 7 days to now go to court for extension. If he doesn't go, so that's where you are right, that the first time, the court said he didn't come within the 7 days. That's why the court said return those ones. And when the money is in an account, then that one, you write to the bank straight from the OSP office and say, this money, freeze it. And that one, he has 14 days. Ioko also has similar powers. So there's no way Mr. Ejabin will hand over that money to Madam Dapaah without Ioko being close by to collect it. Hey, otherwise, Ghana will bend.
You should be cautiously optimistic, especially if Ejabin is quote unquote being frustrated as he's always been talking
this
about.
one.
No, you should
Yes, you get a point. Theoretically, you have a point, but practically,
because it may be the case that what you are hoping
so
for.
as we proceed,
and you know, Mr.
Because there are people who believe that
this could be the
woman
case.
should continue to have.
It's normal. I said the crooks, but Socrates said it. You know the book, The Republic. Socrates said it 400 years even before Jesus Christ. That politicians are crooks.
So is there any other alternative that the OSP could have explored without necessarily washing his hands of this case, as we've seen, and passing it on to Iyoko under the circumstance?
For now, I don't. From where I sit, I'm limited because I don't have visibility on the step-by-step investigations. So once Mr. Jabin says he has no option, for now, let's grant him that margin of appreciation. But I know he put in a caveat that, but they will still be watching from afar or from a distance, just in case evidence emerges that there's corruption. And also, please, let me also repeat here that I think that now that the case is gone to Mami Tiwa, I beg, she should also address us as soon as possible for us to know how it's going to go. And most especially, I want the police to also join Mami Tiwa because there's a recent Supreme Court decision which says that Iyoko itself cannot investigate every money laundering case. No. It's only if the money that is being that has been stolen and is being laundered or whatever, the predicate offense, the offense that was committed and so resulted in that money which is now about to be laundered is government money. So if it turns out that this 2.73 million, the 590,000, the $1 million, and then the money in the accounts, that one to several millions. If it turns out that it's not government money, then Iyoko itself, by the Supreme Court decision in ex parte Ibrahim Malik, Iyoko can't investigate that case, cannot prosecute. So it's safer that they begin to give Ghana Police Service visibility on the case so that Ghana Police Service is aware. And there will be protocols. Police Service has been handling some cases without even giving us details. They even usually don't give us much details. So if the fear is that, I hope it won't be that the fear is that somebody will leak information, right? Yeah, so Police Service should be given visibility so that if it turns out that, hey, this is not government money, when Police Service takes over, they'll hit the ground running. You see now, like the way what happened in this case, Mr. Jabin took over in July. It's not his fault. So we are all learning. I'm sure with hindsight, you see that, next time it will be good to invite Iyoko and the police so that they will be have some visibility. So that if it turns out it's not government money, they also take over. So for now, let's listen. Except that I'm still not happy that Mr. Jabin left Dubois in there.
So let me bring in Alhaji Yunus Afzeni because he has to leave. Alhaji Yunus Afzeni, yes, on this case, you say that to the extent that the exact activity that Cecilia Dapaah was involved in, reason why the special prosecutor is now concluding that this money is in the realms of money laundering, has not been communicated publicly. There's a concern. You talk about the predicate offense. Why is that?
Well, thank you so very much. It is also important to state that on the 31st day of August 2017, the then American ambassador wrote to my committee, the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, at the time that we were seeking to create the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and said that it is also essential that the work of the Special Prosecutor be open to public scrutiny. So this discussion is in furtherance of the desire of the people of this country and our international partners to open the work of the Special Prosecutor to public scrutiny. Now, money laundering is a derivative offense. It's only in limited circumstances that money laundering as an offense, is prosecuted as a stand-alone offense. Very limited cases. One such limited case is when there is no enough evidence of the predicate offense that caused the money to be laundered. Two, or when the predicate offense is committed outside the jurisdiction that is trying that offense of money laundering. Okay?
Right.
Now, what baffles me, really, and you just read Section 1(2) of Act 1044. What baffles me is the obvious willful blindness to indications of money laundering at the very inception of the case. Money laundering is simply an attempt to conceal the process of crime. So when the special prosecutor went to Madam Cecilia Dapaah's house and saw monies in envelopes and other places stashed or stored in different places, there ought to have been a red flag that this could be within the province of money laundering. Even the case of the theft of the money of Cecilia Dapaah should have raised red flags and attracted the attention of the investigative authorities that this could be money laundering. But when we were looking at the establishment of the law for the purposes of creating a specialized agency to try corruption and corruption-related offenses and breaches of the Procurement Act, it was not lost on us that there are many agencies that are already prosecuting corruption and corruption-related offenses. But those agencies trace back to the Attorney General and Minister for Justice because of Article 88. Then when you go back to the MPP's manifesto of 2016, you will be left in no doubt that the reason why the Nana Akufo-Addo government, then in opposition, pushed the agenda of establishing the special office, then they called it the Independent Prosecutor, was precisely because they came to the conclusion that the Attorney General, being a cabinet minister and sits in cabinet with his colleagues, it becomes very difficult for an Attorney General to prosecute ministers of state who have been engaged in an abuse of office.
Okay.
So that was why they pushed the claim. If you look at the preamble to the 2017 to the law, it says the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor has become necessary in view of the institutional bottlenecks that impede the fight against corruption. And one such institutional bottleneck is the establishment of a multi-jurisdictional office like the office of IOCO, I mean the Organized Economic and Organized Crimes Office. It's multi-jurisdictional. It looks at many cases of corruption and money laundering. So it is important for the special prosecutor to tell us that in what did it uncover as the predicate offense?
As in the activity
that led to the attempt to conceal the money. Because if you are engaged in lawful activity, Prof is a professor at the University of Ghana and has money, earned his money lawfully and kept his money in envelopes and put in his wardrobe, he cannot be charged with money laundering. That money, the basic character of that money must be from an illegal activity.
Okay.
That is, you must establish that one first. It could be illegal activity, for instance, if somebody decides, and money laundering, the fact that the special prosecutor says he's collaborating with FBI is neither here nor there.
Why?
Money laundering. If you are a public officer and you go and open a big TV station, within 2 years after you have been appointed into public office, the investigative authorities must be interested, because that could be a clear avenue for money laundering. You're concealing.
Well, but he makes the point that
you're concealing the source of the money.
The owner of the money says part of the money came from there. It was
where?
money that was sent to her, right? People at
Yes.
that point.
Yes.
Some of the testimony of Cecilia Dapaah was that there was some part of the money that the OSP sought to freeze was money sent to her from the US.
Yes,
So
the
obviously-
husband's niece.
Sent to her
so
from
that-
through what source?
So the
Through what source?
it's not checking out. So you are right.
So it's through what source? So you know there is layering. In money laundering, there's something we call layering.
Okay.
So that to obfuscate the source of the money. And so you have to look at many things. Many things. Okay? For me, the Constitution is clear. So at the time of the arrest of Cecilia Dapaah, Article 86(4) makes it very clear. Martin has repeatedly read this article to us. That is what has found
286 clause 4.
4. That is what has been repeated in the Anti-Money Laundering Act in section 1(3). That any property or asset acquired by a public officer after the initial declaration. So when you are investigating a public officer for for illegal acquisition of property, you have to go back to the declaration forms. That becomes the basis. Has the special prosecutor gone there? Has he acquired the declaration forms? Because you declare your cash and non-cash items.
As the asset declaration.
Asset declaration.
Okay.
Now required under of the article, and which is not reasonably attributable to income, gift, loan, inheritance, or any other reasonable source shall be deemed to have been acquired in contravention of shall be deemed to have been acquired illegally. Okay, so what is the source?
Okay, so to the extent that OSP says this money, based on my investigations, is gotten from, or was gotten from money laundering by Cecilia Dapaah, the OSP fails to tell us the unlawful activity that she was engaged in to get this money that he says borders on money laundering. Because if you look at the law, as we quoted, if for somebody to commit the offense of money laundering, must have been engaged in an unlawful activity. And the process of that unlawful activity is what is being laundered. But the OSP doesn't tell us whether he's established the unlawful activity of Cecilia Dapaah or otherwise. So that's where the lack of information, that's where your concern is.
You have to expose the office of the special prosecutor to public scrutiny.
Okay.
Because a lot of resources went into establishing that office. Now, Ghanaians thought and believed that we were taking the right steps to dealing with corruption, even though the recommended procedure of appointment had been ignored, because we had argued that for the appointment of a public prosecutor, it must be open to open tender, open competitive applications. So that the best person, devoid of political coloration, is chosen to be the head. It had been rejected. But I'm saying that everybody was quite worried, and rightly so, because corruption denies the country. And we see it everywhere. 2 days ago, I saw a big 3 trucks loaded with motorcycles being taken to a constituency for the purposes of bribing delegates. I saw flat screen TVs. All this is public resources. Could go to provide water. Could go to provide, to build our roads. Prof just told me about the dilapidated state of our roads. So if we don't fight corruption, we loosen those public resources to individuals. And the Constitution makes it clear that you should not let your private interests, while in public office, conflict with the interests of the states. And that is why it is important for the special prosecutor to tell us, all of us, as Ghanaians, how Cecilia Dapaah came by the money.
All right.
If not, it is legitimizing corruption.
Okay. So you want that unlawful activity to be communicated.
Yes.
Tell us in plain language what that unlawful activity
is.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother, I want to say this. You might have two sharp lawyers going to court. And when they go to court, my brother Martin can stand in front of a judge and make all his heartfelt, his well-researched statement to the judge. And the judge will listen to Martin and listen to another lawyer and rule against Martin. So when Martin says that I'm a layman, yes, I'm a layman in the law. But it doesn't mean that things he say is always right. Because a judge can listen to him and say that what he said, he rule against him. Let me, I understand, but that's fine. But that means that what you always say does not mean that it's final. The point you said, and I was trying to correct, is very simple. You said that the special prosecutor has handed a case to the Yoko. Yoko has to receive the file. They have to review what's been handed to them. Then, as you rightfully said, is
this the focus of the question?
Yes, it's the focus. Yes, I'm going there. I'm going there.
Why?
But I wanted to make
rough route.
No, I wanted to establish.
Please,
I am just deliberately heckling you.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Let Kojo proceed. Yes.
Look, I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is that when you now have a case, and Martin rightfully now put it out there that there is a burden which Yoko has, because that money, you have to establish that is government money. Indeed. That is when Yoko can come in. So Yoko has to now establish within their premise that is the money that we are going to touch, is it government money? But as we are saying, maybe you can touch it and go to court and prove it.
Right.
But for me, what that notion that we always want to put it out there that, oh, there's a conspiracy in the system trying to stop the right thing being done. We should stop it. Okay. There is nobody in this government, there's nobody in Ghana trying to stop anything. The law process, well, you don't know that for a fact. Let's not do that, please. Let's not do that.
Professor Jampo.
Yes, but we don't have the facts. We don't have the facts.
Gentlemen,
there's no fact. But we know absent of fact, don't sit on TV and make that statement either.
A plus has a tape.
Gentlemen, let me say this.
Hold on.
No, but let me say this. We all are viewers some level of decorum.
Exactly.
Let's just not make.
You understand? Because certain allegations go out there, and he says, "Oh, Martin said." And Martin, you are very, you are high. You want to.
So could you proceed with your Could you proceed with your point?
So what I want to make them educate the public.
No, but the point
is very important.
Proceed with the
point is that I don't mind interjection. I love it. But the point is that, look, there isn't anybody in this government trying to stop anything.
You don't believe there's anybody?
There is nobody. I'm putting it. If there wasn't, there are more than ways to kill a cat. It's going to go to Yoko. The head of Yoko, Mamitiwa, would look at the case and see if there are ways that he will approach it in his own process. He will do it. Not let anybody say that they should stand there and tap somebody on the back and collect the money right is being handed over. That is not due process. Somebody went in the Rambo style and look at what we are having, egg in his face. Court is saying that you've not done the right thing. Give back the woman her money. We need to do the right thing.
No, it's not the court who said that.
The court.
The man himself came to we owe our viewers.
Okay, so let's educate. What the court.
The man himself came to the conclusion that this case is within the province of money laundering, and so he will no longer pursue the case. So he filed for a discontinuation of the case.
So there's no court ruling to say that.
So because he filed for his action, he filed for the discontinuation of the case because of these reasons he gave, and the court ruled that the case has been discontinued, and on the grounds that the special prosecutor has provided.
Yes.
And so the money be returned to Cecilia Dapaah within 72 hours.
Okay, that's good. So then we know that. So please, let's establish that. I think that, look, like my brother Honorable Fuseni said, that declaration of asset is a very key starting point. Because when you declare your asset and it is sealed, there is a time when it can be unsealed. And that is when everybody needs to go to, is the ground for the investigation. I think that now Yoko should go to the declaration of assets, then interrogate. Yes, she might give reasons, and I'm sure she's given some reasons in the past how she came about the money, but those can be interrogated, witnesses called, and the right process that everybody wants the right in that. We just don't want accusation. A case has to be established, taken to the court of competent jurisdiction, and tried, and let her be found guilty or not guilty. This thing where everybody thinks that, oh, the fact that it happened, there are cases in court, there are cases in the media that it will do this or do that. It's not right. Personally, I think that the right approach should be taken so that people are not just publicly accused when privately or the court of competent jurisdiction will find them not guilty. Thank you very much.
Well, so as we earlier indicated, it is not the court that ruled that this matter is or borders on money laundering. It is the special prosecutor, upon his own investigations, came to that conclusion that all of this is within the province of money laundering. Even before he went to court to discontinue the case, to have the court order him to return Cecilia Dapaah's assets within 72 hours. Sami Darko is a private legal practitioner. Gentlemen, just indulge me within a few minutes. But he wants to make a very quick, but I'll come to you, Professor Jampo, respectfully. But also, he works with the Special Prosecutor's Office. Good morning, Sami Darko.
Alfred, good morning. Yes, I'm a private legal practitioner, but no longer a private legal practitioner. I'm the director in charge of strategy, research, and communication at the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Well said.
Just a very quick intervention, because as a law enforcement agency, our duty is not to engage in, say, banter or any sort of political arguments around what we do. Our job is to provide the facts. And as has been rightfully said, even the law establishing the OSP makes us so transparent such that you can say unequivocally that OSP is one of the most transparent law enforcement agencies in Ghana. We do put out most of our things. And in respect of Madam Cecilia Dapaah's case, if not that the case has been transferred to another law enforcement agency, we would have published our investigative report, as always required by our laws to do so. Now, the quick clarity I want to make is where there's a lot of talk about predicate offense. This is how the law works. And I know that there are MPs and people who were part of the law and order. And before I finish, I also tell some of the job that Parliament did that is not good, that the office is nearly done with a lot of proposed amendments to make the office function better and to make it in line with international standards. The first one is that when anyone talks about predicate offense to money laundering, it can be that the money is proceeds from narcotics. When the money is proceeds from narcotics, what it will mean is that it will be handled by the Narcotics Control Commission, because that has direct mandate. If the proceeds is from corruption, what it means is that it will be handled by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, because that has a direct mandate. When it is economic crimes, say child trafficking, any form of trafficking, any form of romance scheme, proceeds from that will be handled by IOCO. But there is also what we call money laundering simpliciter, where despite all the scrupulous work by a law enforcement agency, they are unable to identify the source of money because either the suspect has not been cooperative or despite due research, they cannot identify the source of money. When you cannot identify the source of money, it also falls in the realm of money laundering. You have read section 1, 2 of Act 1044, but there's also section 1, 3 of Act 1044. Now, so when the OSP says that, when it conducted due diligence since July, it has not been able to find a corruption-related offense in relation to the monies they seized and in relation to the bank accounts it has frozen. That is what it simply means. Unless people want to doubt, say, the capacity of the OSP to have said that we have thoroughly checked bank account one after the other, every transaction, and that the monies we retrieved. So let me give you a typical example. And because this is also a live case, that's why we are hesitant and we have not spoken too much about really what we found, because all the evidence is being transferred to another state agency to continue. So, for instance, you go to the suspect house, you find an envelope. On top of the envelope is written $200,000 to the Honorable Minister. At the back of the envelope, it doesn't show who brought the envelope. Now, somebody will say that right from the word go, when you found out the money, you should have known it was money laundering. No, you are not a clairvoyant. You can't know from right go. But you have the benefit of hindsight. So now you can say right from the word go. Because
I don't think
any financial crime, financial crime, I'm coming, I'm making a point. Any crime, any financial crime can fall under any of these mandates.
Okay.
So it can be from drugs, it can be from corruption.
You have made that point already. I want to find from you. Did you, as an OSP, did you establish the unlawful activity that Cecilia Dapaah is engaged in? Reason why you say the money borders on money laundering.
You are back to the base of the same argument. You are just going merry-go-round. I'm saying that it's not all the time that you are able to find the unlawful activity. That is why we have Section 1.3 of Act 1044.
Okay, so then how did you conclude that this is on money laundering?
The money laundering aspect. I'll give you a typical example of money laundering. So you speak to a suspect and says, okay, this money, someone from the United States brought me the money. So he said, all right, somebody from the United States brought you the money. How much? He says, this amount. Okay, who is this person? You contact the person. The person says, well, yes, I brought the money to her. You brought the money to her. How did you bring such volumes of money to Ghana? Oh, I came through the airport. Do you have anything to show that you declared? Because at the airport, you need to declare if it's more than $10,000. He said, no, I didn't declare. I gave it to maybe 100 people in the plane. So when I got down, I took it myself. So your unlawful activity here will be what? That failure to declare at the airport.
Okay.
But you as a law enforcement agency, it's not all the time that you can know where they got the money from. That's why we have. Now, let me tell you two things, and I will be done.
So is that to say that the special? I'm coming. Is that to say that the special prosecutor did not establish the exact unlawful activity that Cecilia Dapaah is engaged in that borders on money laundering?
Money laundering is not always that you have to establish the unlawfulness of the activity.
So in this specific case,
when you establish the unlawfulness of the activity, it will go straight to the domain of the person. And I said that when you establish it, that is from narcotics, it will go to Narcotics Control Commission. Okay. If it's corruption, to go to... Yeah, so then let me make this point, last one. When the lawmakers were establishing the OSP, there were two critical things they took out. One, which is prevalent in every OSP. And remember, they keep saying OSP as if Ghana is the only one with an OSP. America, with all its institutions, still has an OSP, which is called Office of Special Counsel. Now, if you go to any OSP, they have what we call non-conviction-based forfeiture. And the real term for it is what we call unexplained wealth order. No, please, if you can just indulge me on this one. We call something unexplained wealth order. That is the order that would have allowed OSP to go to court directly and say that we have this money, the sources are questionable, the explanations don't match up, and so we are confiscating it to the state without even going through a trial. Now, the next point I want to make is what the court also did, which we are not happy about, that we have always maintained that it is not within the powers of a court to direct a law enforcement agency to release what it has seized and and it's investigated unless there is expiration of time or that the suspect has made a demand for it and the law enforcement agency has stopped. For instance, OSP law allows us to seize your property. If we come to your house and we seize your property, if we decide that we won't do anything about it, the law says we can keep it up to 6 months.
Okay, so the court has ordered that you should release Cecilia Dapaah's seized assets within 72 hours. Are you going to comply with that?
Yes, OSP is a law enforcement agency. And in the first instance, when the court said that we should give her back the money, although we vehemently disagreed with the court, we still follow the court order. So we always have to be lawful, and so we will follow the court order.
So have you released the money as yet? Have you given it back to her?
I don't know. What time frame did the court give us?
72 hours is end of the day today.
So I don't know whether the 72 hours has expired, but whatever needs to be done will be done because OSP is a law-abiding organization. It's a very transparent organization. And I think that the public must appreciate that the work we are doing is very difficult. When you're fighting corruption, it's between two people who are unwilling to tell you what really happened. And for instance, I keep saying that a lot of Ghanaians have spoken, but how many Ghanaians have been able to even provide us with one evidence and say that, this case has been trying, but I have done this, I saw this, I have done that.
Okay, so you made your point. I just wanted to establish a few things. Yes, thank you. Sami Darko is with the Office of Special Prosecutor joining us here on Key Point. We've had to round up on this matter even, but Sami Darko is the Director of Strategy, Research and Communications at the Office of Special Prosecutor. He was responding to something that Lajunus Afuseni, you said, but I was asking specific questions. It appears that there's a lot more that they have to tell us to bring us clarity. Quick. No, Prof.
I now understand why there's confusion in the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
All right, so I think that, first of all, before I have my bite, there are certain things, if I'm on the panel, I cannot allow it to go without me scrutinizing or commenting or rebutting. Former presidential aspirant or flag bearer aspirant. You see, telling me that there is no one in government who is not interested in ensuring, who is not interested in frustrating the right thing from being done. Telling me this is a certain, shows a certain fundamental misunderstanding of the concept of interests in political governance. And then it also shows a misunderstanding of one of the key challenges of governance and leadership in developing democracies. You should know that in fledgling democracies like ours, some people benefit from things not working well. And so for them, it is in their interest to frustrate the right things from being done. And so don't tell me in the face that everybody, or don't create an impression that everybody wants the right thing to be done, especially in government. Okay. The second thing that I want to say quickly in response to as my take on what we have just discussed is that, number one, you see, the young man, Sami Darko, I mean, his intervention, in my view, is much ado about nothing, and it is an unnecessary display of untamed youthful exuberance. Why? And, I mean, he was going round, he was not making sense to me. We should note this. Corruption takes place in secrecy. Serious attempts at dealing with corruption must also happen effectively but quietly. It is not so much about rushing to the public and wanting to go on and on and on. That's what Cecilia Dapaah was always doing, or has always been doing, and I've always been criticizing that he is rushing. And so, if you continue on this tangent, you only show a certain immaturity that closes the door of future youthful appointment in our governance and political, landscape. And so, again, let us also take note of this. Fighting corruption is about creating the right perception, especially among the uninformed and the uninitiated, those who don't know. You have to create a right perception. So if you hurriedly rush and you go and only find out that there are a lot of things you cannot do, And so the court orders that return the person's money to her in 72. It creates a certain perception that we have lost it. And once that there is that perception there, your hands are not so much strengthened in fighting corruption. It's been sent, the matter has been sent to Yoko. I want to believe and I trust that Mami Yatiwa Adudankwa would want to do something to also leave a certain image or legacy in his own, in his profession. You know, this Takrade kidnap matter brought a lot of, issues, against her. And I want to believe that this is an opportunity for her to assert herself and then also ensure that what she's supposed to do to bring to address some of these issues, are done in a manner that portrays or projects her that, look, she means business. I have every confidence, I have every trust in her that she would want to do the right thing. But finally, I want to repeat what I've always been saying, that, you see, fighting corruption is not about Russian. Okay, the office of the special prosecutor seems to be very much in a haste. You don't always want to come to the public and look at what the young man came to do. He is a reflection. But what he came to do is a reflection of what Cecilia Dapaah has been doing. And I'm saying that if you want to fight corruption effectively, the act itself oftentimes takes place secretly. And so you must also go undercover to be working, and that brings a certain effectiveness. It's not about the propagandistic nature of always wanting to be seen, to be working, and then when we are discussing, then someone calls in and then display much useful, exuberance and makes the matters murkier. And so I am hoping, if he had taken his time, he would have known that this matter, where it is going, and where it is going, it may land on someone else's table. And so you should have approached it with some trepidation, and those public utterances and wanting to, it doesn't show much maturity. And so I will continue to harp on this. And see, every now and then when matters come up, he makes me feel vindicated. I've always said that, Russia, OBT, and that's what he's been doing. Martin, you don't like me saying that, but that's the fact. I know you have a certain soft spot, and sometimes you want, but the point is that you have to approach this with a certain sense of caution and maturity. Otherwise, look, there are better lawyers, there are seasoned lawyers, there are more sober lawyers who can handle this position and handle it very, very well. It's not about showing youthful exuberance and wanting to please everybody that you are doing something when what you are doing has so far been much ado about nothing.
Martin Bebo holds a different view when it comes to the performance of the special prosecutor.
He's put out that after matter, I'm going to court with Prof.
But that point that I don't know why
he's bringing this Edubuahin
we are going to court.
That point that I just wanted that point that Sami Darko makes about not all money laundering offenses that you have to prove the original offense, as in the predicate offense. Can that apply in this Cecilia Dapaah case?
Hopefully, because you see, the way subsection 3 of section 1 is couched, it gives that impression. You see, the section 1 starts with subsection 1 of section 1 says, so no person shall do money laundering. Then you go to subsection 2. Then subsection 2 says that you must prove that there is an unlawful activity, and after that unlawful activity, there is concealment, conversion, diversion, those things. That's classical money laundering.
Right.
But, as these cases come and you keep reading on, you see that subsection 3, the way it's couched, it makes it, from the way I see it, and that's the same thing Sami Darko said, and that's why I read it. When I said we'll win this case, cool chop, because of the way it's stated, it's saying that when you are being investigated, right? And then you cannot account for the money. Look, you are deemed to have committed the offense. So maybe when we go to court, we'll see. But from the way it's being done, it looks like it, that when you are being investigated and you can't account for the money, then you are deemed to have committed the offense. And it was in the old act. So you see why I said Madame Dapaah, so I went to the history and said so far she's not been able to account. And Mr. Kansi,
for the source of the money.
Yes, let's read it again. It will help. It says, subsection 3. Oh dear. I'm just there 1 second because it's education so that viewers can also. It says, where a person under investigation for money laundering is in possession or control of property which the person cannot account for and which is disproportionate to the income of that person from known sources, that person shall be deemed to have committed an offense under subsection 2. So this one is saying that, look, you can't account for, then we'll take it that. And so I see that, you see, under the old act, the Money Laundering Act, the other one, yes, there was a bed similar to this one that, look, it's your, when we find money on you, the duty is on you to prove that not you lose it. So let's see how it pans out in court, because so far, Madam Dapaah can't explain. And so based on subsection 3, we must win.
Okay, Martin, thank you. And so also respectfully say that in that intervention as well from the Special Prosecutor's Office was also to give another layer to the conversation. So Martin Pebo, thank you for bringing that aspect of things as well to it as well. And then also Cecilia Dapaah coming in, but there still remains that fundamental question as to whether, one, we do not know for now whether the monies or the assets have been returned to Cecilia Dapaah as the court directed, that it should be done within 72 hours. I think if you look at the case, 72 hours elapses today.
Okay.
And he's not even
elapses today. The weekends are counted.
Yes, for this one. Yeah.
So 72 hours elapses today. So that is something that also he couldn't really say whether the monies have been returned or not. But Cecilia Dapaah, thank you for joining us. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. Then we'll get into another matter. In fact, we're following quite closely what is happening with the NPP primaries. We'll touch base with some of our reporters on the ground right after this quick break. We have some incidents in the Ashanti region where some billboards belonging to one of the other aspirants have been pulled down. That has generated some misunderstanding. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.